Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. However you happen to be watching and or listening to this, I want to welcome you to the latest episode of the Gaming Circle podcast. The podcast where, this week there's some things to talk about. Believe it or not, actually, we were planning to do something interesting. We were planning to do something fun. We were just like, there's some news going on, but screw all that. We're going to have some fun and talk some gaming things. And then Mr. Everborn Saga walked in the room and he was like, no, I have bones to pick today. And we're going to sit there and we're going to talk about them bones that he's got to pick. And it's going to be some real interesting times this morning. I'm your host, of course, Mr. K. Asante, TK Asante, on all the places that we are eventually communicate. And of course, I am joined this week and always, luckily, by my brother from another mother, Mr. Everborn Saga. Sir, tell us about the bones you have to pick this morning. You are on mute, sir. You better unmute yourself before you start picking them bones. There you go.
We will get to those lovely bones, but I just want to say, ayo, and then secondly, let's introduce our illustrious guest, and then I want to talk about something before we get into that. But there's time.
Okay. And of course, our returning champion. We love it when he's able to join us. Either he's in the chat or he's on the panel, but his slander is never not appreciated. Aaron, what's going on, sir? Welcome back to the show. We appreciate you being here. Do you have your Mass Effect suit underneath? Are you ready for battle? What's going on?
Yeah, I had to throw it in the washing machine. Of course, as many times it has been shrinking all the times. So still my head is a little bit bigger than it's supposed to be when I'm wearing that one. But I'm doing my best. I'm happy to be here again. Happy
to have you, sir. Always a pleasure to have you. I know that we said that we would have another guest on. He will join us momentarily, I imagine, as the gaming circle does. People jump in and jump out as they see fit. So we look forward to having him. Before we get into this whole thing proper, thanks to all the wonderful folks that are here. As everyone was reminding me, we haven't had a show for almost 2 weeks now. So there's some things that need to most likely be discussed, and people need to be brought back into the fold and all of that. Mr. Everborn Saga, you wanted to quickly talk as far as housekeeping was concerned. You wanted to talk about some things you'd done. Why don't you tell the fine people?
But before I do, speak of the devil. And
ladies and gentlemen, because this battle will not be complete without the combatants. The one and only Game Logic. Good morning, sir.
Oh, damn. He's all
shaven, ready to go.
Damn, I'm in trouble.
This is beautiful.
See,
I'm in trouble now.
Aaron, you missed it offline. Aaron was ready to take the victory by default.
Yeah.
And he was. You missed it. It was so much logic slander.
There's definitely an argument that this debate should have a default victor, but we'll still go through the exercise. I will give grace.
Oh, wow.
So I would say, if you don't mind, then Game Logic, why wouldn't you just? We can do it in Swedish, right? Just for the fun of it.
I do have one last minute. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did have one last minute rule addition that I wanted to request.
Okay.
So I heavily suspect that because the GCP audience is the vaunted prestige organization that it is, I suspect that lots of people will be fact checking as well. I think they should. I would ask that there be some arbiter of fact checking that ensures that the fact checking comes from reputable sources. Like, I don't think fact checking and debunking should be done from www.mcggaming.blog. Right.
Wow. Do not hate on the great Daniel McGee, but that's neither here nor there.
That's a real person.
Yeah, you do that.
I wasn't trying to slander a real person. I was trying to make a make-up website.
But what Logic is really saying is, don't come here with those AI summaries and thinking, "Bam, I got you." What we'll need is, if you find it in DanielMcG.com, click through to the source where Daniel McG got it from, and make sure that is someplace that is reputable.
Yes, we will try to underline, some of these rules when we go into the debate as well.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, we should tell people Do they even know what we're debating?
This is what I was going into. This is what I was going to. Thank you.
But you can do that in a second. Let me do this housekeeping. Listen, people, we did something that guys have been asking for a long time. Now, we always send you to the Everborn Saga website, and we try to shame you into buying some of my comics. But today, we've added a new section to the everbornsaga.com website, and it is the Gaming Circle podcast section. So if you go to everbornsaga.com right now and click on the Gaming Circle podcast section, it will link you to either the blog or the YouTube channel, which you are now, or we've added a new merch section in the Everborn Saga store. And so you can get your hands on things like the brand specific GCP hats. We've got GCP shirts for you pick your platform. We should probably do one for Steam, but we've got Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch shirts, all made by Adidas. And we've got our own GCP meme shirts like CEG, the illustrious console experience gamer shirt. If you subscribe to that style of life. We've also got the Charge Them More shirt. And
where is that?
If you're a member
Charge Them More shirt. Oh, there he is. There he is. Charge Them More right there. There you go.
Right. And if you're a member of the Discord, you will be very familiar with FAMAS. And that's just one of those if you know things. And now you too can join the FAMAS movement. So more memes we create here in our normal fun banter and discourse, we'll make more shirts here, and all meme shirts are made by Champion. All GCP official shirts are going to be done by Adidas, so very high quality stuff, very demure if you watch TikTok. So check it out. Just go to everbornsaga.com and then click on the GCP section.
He's got the face for FAMAS. You see this? He's got the face. I'm just saying.
He for those who know, that guy looks like John when exclusives still mattered. Okay, but
anyway. Man. Okay. All right. Yeah, Aaron's like, no, I'm not about this life right now. No, we're not doing.
I think
this.
I got a call actually, but
he's like, I think I may have to get off the show. Right
oh no!
So yes,
I'm all ready to invest it. Yeah.
Public, thank you. This has been a long time coming. We've been wanting to do this for some time now. Not enough time in the day, ladies and gentlemen. So Everborn Saga said, you know what? Screw it. I'm doing it myself, and he has done it. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
I did it while I was on the road to Miami, going to Florida SuperCon.
When his car was driving itself, he was busy. Busy doing.
The car bothers you when you don't look at the road.
When you don't focus on it.
It's so annoying, forcing you to watch the road while it drives for you.
What are you gonna do? Yes. Pinky problems, right? Pinky problems. Yes. Anyway, so needless to say, thank you, Everborn Saga, for taking the step and getting that done. Those of you who happen to, you choose to go to the Everborn Saga website and you use that 10% to save you some dough, and you buy that.
It's 15%. It's 15%. Get it right. If you use code GCP at checkout, it will be 15% off of anything in the store, including the comics that more of you need to buy.
Absolutely. So when you happen to acquire said comics and or acquire apparel or both, why don't you get on them socials and let us know, and we'll give you the shout out that you absolutely deserve for doing some amazing stuff. We appreciate y'all. So, all right, what are we gonna do today? Today is a very interesting day. Initially we were like, the news gods aren't being kind. And as y'all know, and another cheap plug, join the Discord, because there's a lot of great conversations that come from the Discord, including our great members that have joined us today, hanging out in the Discord, having really, really awesome conversations. And with that came about, let's have this conversation because there's this debate of what year was the most influential. And it ultimately culminated in 2007 versus 2017. And our combatants are here ready to advocate for their side, if you will. And you will ultimately, the crowd, be the adjudicators.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Who wins.
Continue doing your thing.
Absolutely. You will be the adjudicator of who exactly wins this back and forth. But before we get to that, I wanted to, we haven't been here in a while. It's been we've been a while for a week. Wanted to talk maybe about some games we've been playing, this, that, and the third. And then, of course, Mr. Everborn Saga heard some news, and the news guys in the last minute decided to throw some audibles. So, oh boy, there's a little bit of conversation to be had there as well. But you know what? Let us start this thing as we normally do. And I'll start with you, Aaron. You are, it's been a minute since you've been on this show. What games have you been playing this week?
I finished up Ghost of Tsushima.
Speak to me about Ghost of Tsushima, sir. Let's talk about that for a minute.
So this is a little game about, it's a revenge story. It is set in Japan. I'm just playing around. But of course, I'm very late to the party. And I believe what happened was that my co-reviewer, one of my friends, was reviewing that game when it came out. I was playing it to be able to, get some good baseline understanding of it, to talk about it and so forth. And I never got around to finish it because other assignments came into play. So, yeah, I think I sometimes every year I just look at my backlog and like, I need to finish this one. So this one was on the top of that one. So I finished it up and I played through Iki Island as well. And I remember being very mad in 2020 because it was impossible for me to even imagine that something could grab the best art direction of the year from Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I thought that something is going on in the world where people are just being plain stupid. Regarding that, I actually would retract that because I can totally see how this game moved so many with its visual presentation that it's deservedly so getting that like those flowers back then. So shout out to that art team. I remember one of the interviews I listened to way back when with that art team as well. It's just something else, and they saw something in their vision when they came to the presentation and they went full blown steam ahead. And they did exactly that. And I have this nitpick around what I would like to have from a Kurosawa mode, of course, which is I want it to be like the movies. I want it to be with a 24 frames recording. I want it without all the effects, the slow motion, the parries, all those things. I just want it 24 frames. And this is going to sound crazy, but I want it in that old 576 interlaced presentation.
You want them to go all the way, like just throw technology out the window. Make sure when you turn that mode on, you got to take out the VHS and just like click. And the screen is this big.
never produced in 4K 60. You know what I'm saying? And I actually remember that I tried to do that myself during a stream. So I set all these settings in OBS down to those metrics, and it looks like shit. It was just a dirty dud on screen. And I was trying my best to kind of like imagine how it would look. But it's a small thing. The story is as old as anything else when it comes to honor and revenge. It has been done so many times. Family themes has been done so many times. But again, when you deliver those things in the way that they pulled off with Ghost of Tsushima, I totally get why this game just rose up to be like, game of all time for so many players, especially during the pandemic. Because I think even though we saw the cool trailers beforehand, and even though there was some expectation from Sucker Punch from their earlier games, I think this was one of those games where a lot of people never really expected what they was about to get with this game. So it looked great, but when the gameplay and everything is just on point as well, I can totally see the love that it got, and I think it's deserved well above that. And I would say there's one nitpick now that I get to see some gameplay here or get reminded of it. There is this lack of fluidity in the fighting. It is very static, in my opinion. It's fun as hell, don't get me wrong, it's really fun. But with the motion and the animation work that he pulled into this, with the art, it is something that is like it creates this beauty that you're in control of when you're riding across the fields, when you're approaching a couple of enemies, and just that you have the standstill. But I think in my mind it would be so cool if all of that beauty and motion that is presented in this world could also come through into the combat. I wanted the combat to be a little bit more of a dance than I felt that it ever became.
It wasn't as smooth as you'd want it to be. I can see that.
No. Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
It looked
but,
smooth, but
amazing
it didn't
game.
play as smooth. Yes.
No.
Yes.
And I mean, I love to try to go deeper into these combat mechanics and, also turn off the HUD elements and just go wild with it and try different kind of stances and like live myself in the moment. Like, okay, I'm alone on this field with 4 other guys and, stone face, super samurai, just like being there mentally.
Let's go. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And try to like coordinate the attacks so it can feel like it's very natural. Just like when you play Tony Hawk, when you do a kickflip K-grind, like it is super unnatural where the way that the board lands on the rail and stuff like that. So you try to make it in an angle so it looks kind of realistic. I think that's got solved with Skate. Shout out to 2007. So I think those things when these games, I had to try to pull that off in Ghost of Tsushima as well. Like being alone with 4 guys and try to like, okay, one guy come from the left, then I got to do this parry because my natural position after that one is on the right, so I can catch the second guy. And just go back and forth at it with that kind of to try to at least create my own dance. But it never really, like the system is not there for that. It is there for cool animations and cool executions and great combat and different stances. But it's a super tidbit. But I guess, the very best games, they do this to you at times. They make you think so much about the world and the details that you start to get your own ideas, and I think that's one of the powers of the absolute best games out there.
So before we move on from this, because I know we've talked about this game before, I've also exalted this game. I love this game as well. For me, because of the experience I had here, it made Ghost of Yotai rise a little higher in my anticipation, right? Because I've played this multiple times, played it on PS4, PS5, and the PC. So I agree with you, all your points. How does this, now that you've finished it, how does this make you feel for Yotai?
I mean, it's obvious. Like, this, Yotai coming out this year and looking, at my friends, I will probably be the one who grabs that review when it arrives. So I felt like I had to also prioritize this in the back of my mind. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't come down to review, now I'm already as invested in thinking about, okay, this, I want to see this through because, but I'm also, after whatever 60, 70 hours with Shadows, I don't want to get that feudal Japan fatigue because I'm not a super feudal Japan buff, outside of this. If I were, then I would be in heaven right now, of course. But I'm not. So
a lot of options. Yes.
Yeah, I want to be careful. But of course, expecting those reviews to hit, down the line. I'm glad that I finished this one. And holy shit, man, what an ending! Anything that without spoiling anything, family themes and me, I'm ready for it. If you bring family themes into the mix, it just pushed my strings.
To be fair, though, it is another sad dad simulator in its way. In its way, it's another dad issues thing in its way.
That could be debated. That could be debated. I mean, dad or family.
Yeah. It's true.
Is it really dad, or maybe is it his son?
It's not because clearly it's his. We'll not spoil for those who haven't have experienced the story, but needless to say, okay. Everborn, my only bit of slander that I'm coming towards you for is I heard you on the Iki Island, not Iki Island, on the Ghost of Yotai thing. I suggest I may need to buy you a copy of Samurai Champloo, get you educated. Is that what's going down? Because I heard you in your Watanabe mode slander. I heard you, man.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying it didn't fit, man. I don't need modern music with
you
setting.
have not watched the brilliance that is Samurai Champloo. You have not.
That's
you
fine.
Need to do so.
It didn't work for me, sir. It did not work.
Which means you have not partaken of the brilliance that is Watanabe. By the way, the gentleman who also made Cowboy Bebop, which is also a similar style of that kind of modern music
but Cowboy Bebop takes place in the future, so let's just Call it what it is.
Yeah, that's neither here nor there. Anyways, thank you, Aaron. Any other games? I'm sorry, everyone. You had something you wanted to say. Go ahead.
No. Let Aaron finish out. I got a rapid fire because I played like 5 games this week that we're not going to take too long on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm deep down in Marvel Snap as usual. Like that's my go-to.
Okay.
It's been that way ever since it first came out that first year.
How long have you been playing it?
I mean, when did it release? 4 years ago?
Yeah.
I
was hard on that game for like 6 months, and then I had to get the monkey off my back because it was going to take all my money. You're still playing it.
I'm still playing it, and I don't know how many hours that has been stealing from my life, but it is the best. You have these situations, during your day, at least in my life, where bed before bed, a couple of games,
need a few minutes here and there.
The obligatory bathroom break, 3 p.m. in the afternoon after the meetings, and then of course in the morning on the subway or the metro, like on the way to work. Like it is this thing that I can't just get away from. Like, I've gone back and forth and bought the battle passes 1 month and 1 month not, and so forth. This month's battle pass with the Fantastic Four, it is so each month, for those of you who don't know, they have a battle pass for around, I think it's maybe 10, 11, 12 bucks, a month. It's a wildly predatory system. It is crazy.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
But still, though, I mean, they have with each battle pass, you unlock that month's new character, and of course, with whatever 7,000 or 8,000 different Marvel characters in their rooster, they can go on for years, as they probably will. So this month it was Mr. Fantastic, A New Beginning. That is a new one, and it's kind of crazy because there's a lot of new skill sets and powers to these cards that have been launching this year. I'm curious if it has to do about the fact that Second Dinner, the developer, also has been fighting off their earlier publisher, and they're doing their own thing right now. I'm not super well versed in this, but I think they're standing on their own right now. So they launched a new store. They did a lot of things. So they had a lot of moving parts in 2025. And it feels like something is coming up from that, which is a lot of new crazy powers. And the problem with this, I mean, the good thing is that it's fun as hell when you try to you get some more variation into the actual builds and the cards and decks. But the bad thing is, of course, that now it's even more important to stay within the meta. So you either have to be playing like a crazy person, which I am,
all day, every day.
Yep. Yeah, or absolutely, at least pay for the battle pass, because you want those meta cards. Like there's an upcoming meta card which is Invincible. What's she called? The Invincible Woman. Is it the Invincible Woman? I guess it is.
Invincible Woman.
Yeah. A New Beginning from Fantastic Four, and her powers and the setup they have for the end of turn powers for these cards. I mean, I'm not going to go into the details, but it's the meta right now is super hard to break through unless you just find that sweet spot during the week where everybody's trying out the new card and those kind of 4 or 5 different decks with that new card. And you just find a deck that is a true punishing deck. So, because if you have a deck that wants to move, for example, then you only want to focus on getting Killmonger out to kill those early ones, the Human Torch and so forth. Or if you want a deck that is only about destroy, then you want those Enchantress to break out the ongoing cards, or you want the Cosmo to break the reveals and so forth. So it's a lot of those moments, and I don't really have that time to punish the meta right now. So I'm just having fun, but it's infuriating as well.
Have they changed the way that the progression systems work in this game, or is it still the same thing where you get all your cards, right? You build your cards, it's still cool, and you're paying for the cooler looking versions of your cards?
Yes and no. I mean, you gain credits, you gain gold by playing each and
Sure.
every season. You gain even more gold and more credits if you pay for the battle pass, of course. So you can still,
but it's all for the
get
purpose of getting
everything.
cooler cards, right?
Yeah, cooler cards. But I mean, you're talking about the variants.
Yes.
Like my big one is Dan Hip. He's probably the biggest contributor to the different variants as well. At first, I did not like his art style, but it grew on me, and now I'm collecting all of his stuff. I think I must be above 95% of all his variants right now.
Wow.
And I think so. Still, the game still will let you gather all the variants. Almost. There are some variants hidden behind packages that you buy for a huge amount of gold or real money. But if you play enough, you can pretty much get everything in the game. So that rule is still not broken. But man, oh man, I mean, they have tokens, you have gold, you have credits, and then you have these different other play modes. They just launched a new play mode that will be going on for 2 or 3 weeks now that is called, I think, the Arena. So you see a lot of them. I mean, Ben Brode, as we know, coming from Hearthstone, they're trying a lot of different cool play modes that are coming in and staying for a week or maybe 2 weeks, and a lot of those, it just, they're all free, and, it's easy to get in them and to get some variation. So as a game, it still holds up super strong, in my opinion. Like you can absolutely just try to look past all the obvious, like, oh, wouldn't you rather invest in the battle pass and just go for the free mode all the way and still enjoyed it, because the mechanics are so strong.
TLDR, as I understand it, if you have not played this game and you are a big Marvel fan, stay away. Stay away from this game. Don't start this game. It is the monkey you cannot get off your back. It took me 6 months to get it off of mine. As you see, Aaron is still having a problem.
Welcome to the Gaming Marvel Snap podcast.
I have been talking to players who, holy shit, man. I talked to one player. I'm not naming any names, but this person, when I asked them, like, so how much
they spent,
how much, and they've quit right now. So they played for about maybe 1 or maybe 1.5, 2 years. And I was like, you cannot have spent over $1,000 on this one, please.
Oh boy.
And they're like, higher.
Yep.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Are you talking about like 2,000 or 3,000, 5,000? Like,
holy.
I'm like, stop it. It ended up with them pretty much like, a little bit above 7K. I'm like, I'm done. I would have. Is wild. I will not shame them, because if you got that money and you feel like it's important for you to collect those things, more power to you. Holy.
Yep.
Shit.
Nope. Nope. We're not doing it. Nope.
No.
I love Marvel characters. I love it to so much so, and I mean, it's so easy. It's on your phone. You could just play it anytime you want. I had to get it off my back. I think it's because of Marvel Snap that I haven't given Marvel Rivals a shot, because it was a little dangerous, and I'm just like, you guys will get me with these Marvel characters. I'm not going to allow it. So I haven't even given them a shot.
Shout out to Marvel Snap, I guess.
That's right.
For saving
What's
you.
going on, everyone?
Yes, I'm going to call time on Marvel Snap. 30 minutes into the show.
Hey, man, it is what it is.
It's
by the way, he's been patient. He's been chilling. Logic, sir, I see you put something in the chat. What have you been playing? What would you tell us what's been going on in your world for a little bit?
Yeah, I've kind of definitely been all over the place because, as I mentioned, I think a couple of weeks ago, I've recently made a return to consoles. So, of course, I'm getting a lot of whiplash from trying to make sure I spend some time on PC, some time on console, some time on Steam Deck, whatever. The link that I put in the chat is because one of the things that I've been recently going back and doing some backlog plays of has been Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. So
great game, sir. Yeah.
The link I sent you had a timestamp on it, but you can
okay, yeah.
You can jump to like 25 minutes or so or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah, so this is, one of my, I'm not a Metroidvania person. I'm not a huge platformer person. So this game, but I have for many, many years, arguably decades, been a fan of the Prince of Persia series, and of course I got started back on the OG, which I can't even remember who that was published by like Broderbund or something like that. But but the original 2D flat game on may have been a DOS game, may have been a Windows 3.5 game. I'm not sure, but I've been a fan since then. Wasn't as huge a fan of the whole Sands of Time and the 3Dification of the game, but they were still good games. I still had fun with them. So this is kind of a return back to the things that we knew before, and it's really great. It's great from having a diverse protagonist. It's great. This version here, I think, if I remember correctly, I'm playing this on the PS5 Pro, right? Yeah, so playing this on PS5 Pro, it has come to that platform, and I think I'm playing this through PlayStation Plus Premium. So it has like additional costumes, like as I'm wearing here, skins and whatnot. But
it looks like the first Prince. It looks like the Prince, the modern Prince. Yes, yeah. They've updated them. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it has like 6 skins in it or something like that. So, but I mean, just everything about this game. If I did a decomposition of like what makes games fun, what makes games good/great, this hits on so many drum beats. The combat is fluid. I really love the story. There's the character development, the character progression like through the narrative, but also character progression in terms of like skill sets that you can unlock and weapons that you can unlock, and new attack styles that you can unlock. The game's just fun. I talk a lot. This year I think we've seen a lot of games that there are games that have kind of made a conscious effort to not get in between the gamer and the fun, to flatten that notion of friction that gets in the way of you getting your entertainment ROI out of a game. And I feel like this is one of those. I played this game originally on the Nintendo Switch. And so this one's nice that in terms of like the way I'm playing it, because the first time around, like I kind of couldn't be bothered with the map. I was just kind of going through it ad hoc. This time I am like focusing on the map and really kind of planning out where I'm going and really kind of thinking about, hey, I've been in this area. I'm looking for this thing next. I need to check this off the block. So it's an interesting and enjoyable playthrough, and I'm having a good time with it.
Very good. Very good. Go ahead, everyone. I know this is one of your favorites.
Lost Crown was my game of 2024. 2D platformers and Metroidvanias are like probably my number one genre of games. Some people it's shooters, some people it's fighters. It's these kind of games for me. So, but that being said, this is like cream of the crop, and I love every piece of it. And I think the game did not get what it deserved because of Ubisoft's go-to-market strategy with it. The game, and again, quality level is fantastic, but you can't charge $50 for a game like this just because of what the expectations of consumers are. Now, I'm not saying it's not worth the $50. It was totally worth it for me, and I bought this on multiple platforms, but I like just the way they did it was not on Steam at launch, and then it was outside of the scope in terms of price expectations for the consumer at launch, and
they were their own worst enemies.
By the time they corrected those things and brought them more in line with consumer expectations, that was it. People had moved on, and it's a shame because I think this game could have like done really well if they would have priced it right and released it on a platform where people would have picked it up, but they didn't, and now we can only talk about it fondly in memory. And
although I would actually argue that even though the time and the zeitgeist has moved on, if you haven't played this game, please in a vacuum, it is brilliant. It's just so good. And Logic, I will be behind you and say, for me anyway, for a little while, this is why I looked at AC Shadows the same way I looked at Apex Legends. It's because of you that I don't get what I want, which is another Prince of Persia. I love Prince of Persia. Me too. Like from the Windows 3.1 days, I've been playing this since DOS. And like I got really upset that because Prince of Persia, because Assassin's Creed did so well, they would never go back to this well again. So I'm very happy that they're back here with this. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be the odd one out and say that I've never really vibed with the fighting system. I think I need to start this game all over. And I think it comes down to the main fact of me not being able to use the D-pad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need to control everything with the joystick, which is,
Well, this game requires some super precision in terms of the platforming and fighting with this. So like,
which makes it even harder with the joystick, in my opinion.
Yeah. That's the point. And again, like some of the things they ask you to do later on, where you have to chain abilities, is like these are sadists that made this game. But it's so good because when you get it, it's like beating that one mini boss in Elden Ring that's been bothering you for a week. When you get through the section, and then obviously it's unlocked, so you don't have to do some of the super harder things again. You just feel this sense of accomplishment, like you got it. And but this game does a thing where it's like, all right, surely this is the amount of obstacles they want me to go through for this platforming set, and then it's like, nope, you're only halfway. But I
did you finished it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
How long hours?
I can go check.
Because I remember it's a long game, right?
It's a long game.
It's like a 30-hour game.
Long game.
Yeah. It's even not more Hollow Knight, but it's longer than the Ori ones. Yeah.
It's definitely longer than Ori.
Yeah.
But
so,
at some point,
if you haven't played it, pick this game up. You will not be disappointed. And another fun fact, if you sign in to your Ubisoft account, free one, you can pick it up on any platform. If you have it on Switch and you double dipped and you got it on Steam, you can go back and forth from Xbox to Steam to PlayStation to Switch, however you want to do it. So you won't lose your progress if you go to another game. It's
the only thing, though, since you mentioned that, the only thing you must remember is it's not automatic. There's a section you have to go to download the save, and there's a section you have to go to upload the save. Otherwise, it won't carry over. You have to remember to do that. But once you do, it does absolutely carry over. So excellent game. I agree. More people should play it. Right. Before we move on, and there's another game because
I didn't even talk about the 5 games that I thought that we was playing.
Well, no. Logic still has another one, sir. You're not
sorry,
yet.
Logic. Go ahead.
I dropped the link in there.
As he has, and we will play that right now. What is the other game you are playing, sir? A game that is great, and I myself love absolutely. Go ahead and tell us more about it.
Yeah, so you mentioned a little bit about like games that may have gotten short shrift in the past, and one of the things that I contemplated while I was doing this as a backlog play, because so 2019, so definitely 2019 to this year, I've been very hardcore, games as a service, multiplayer PvP type stuff. Less story oriented narrative, beginning to end type of narrative games, or even just single player type games in general. And so I didn't spend a ton of time playing the campaign of Halo Infinite because I was too busy to be about that multiplayer. So I wondered aloud while I was live streaming, not live streaming, that's what I do, going through this Let's Play of, I wonder if like history is going to kind of show that we may have given Halo Infinite short shrift. I've really enjoyed going back and playing this. I had forgotten that for some reason in my head I thought you didn't get the grappling hook like right off the bat, that you got it later, but he's got it right off the bat. Some of the cinematic kind of presentation narrative stuff, his interaction with the pilot on the Pelican is really good, like voice acting and mocap, and it's really interesting. Sometimes that dude kind of wears on me a little bit. I talk a lot about games and most frequently I point out Naughty Dog games, but there's definitely been other games like this where, not like this, but like other games besides Naughty Dog games where the characters are so talkative and they're kind of going on, and I'm like, just pipe down, like, I got it. And there's
more too much talking. I understand.
there's definitely sections of this game where that dude is just always constantly complaining. There's some parts where he's like the comic relief, and like that's enjoyable. And then there's some parts that I'm just like, stop your belly aching and your whining. Come on, man, let's get it done. But one thing that I thought was super interesting about this, and I've been playing this along with Death Stranding 2, which Death Stranding 2 really amps up the prevalence of vehicles in the game and your use of them and access to them. And it's kind of funny as I'm playing this game, the parts of Zeta Halo that are traversable by vehicle, or you could see them in this view of the map, are like the little roads, right? Those are the things that like they are most useful for. But the roads aren't laid down in any kind of sensible pattern. So in order to traverse them, I find myself that I'm constantly like clicking back into the map, right? And then I'm therefore not gaining like as much of the thrill and the fun of driving the vehicle because I'm constantly stopping to clear. So in this playthrough, eventually, in this playthrough, I actually consciously just stopped using vehicles, and I'm just like, I can traverse this ring just running and using the grappling hook and jumping. So I'm driving the mongoose here, and like shortly after this, I just be like, I'll just leave the vehicle. Like I've driven a mongoose before, I've driven a warthog before. Like I'm not getting a bunch of dopamine hits from doing that. So I'm just gonna traverse the planet, right, and go adventure to adventure.
That grapple shot, man, that works though. You're absolutely right. You can traverse the whole world that way. It's freaking awesome.
It does, and it's kind of interesting because, of course, shortly before this, I was playing Uncharted 4, right, which has a lot of the grappling hook stuff in it. And that brings up an interesting point. I'll go back a little bit to a comment on Prince of Persia, Lost Crown, and like some of its notional difficulty. And I will say that game, very much in the same way as Ori, there are parts of like traversal where and also recently I was doing a backlog play of Doom Eternal, which I one of my greatest love-hate relationships with the game, because like the platforming in Doom Eternal just makes me want to punch my monitor at some points. And so in Doom Eternal and Uncharted style, are in Doom Eternal and I can't remember what other platform I'm thinking of. In the Lost Crown, like there are parts where the traversal is hard, where you have to jump and then fire the arrow and have that hit a thing that causes a flower petal to expand right in time for you to land on it, and you have to take off from one platform, fire a thing, hit a lever, make another platform traverse in time before you land on that platform, and then quickly jump before that platform. So like that type of wild, crazy stuff in Lost Crown is also, it's difficult, but it's also kind of peak, right, in terms of that dopamine hit. But back to Halo Infinite, I was always enamored by the notion of the open world and kind of me being able to plan out in kind of Far Cry style. This is the pattern by which I'm going to open up this part of the map, right? I'm going to take down this base, I'm going to take down this outpost, I'm going to go after this boss, I'm going to bounty hunt this guy, and so those things are very enjoyable, right, in terms of kind of knocking out segments of the map and focusing on kind of that mission to mission, battle to battle thing that for me is really enjoyable. So having a lot of fun with this one.
Excellent. I really hope more people play it. Go ahead, everyone. What were we saying?
Now
that campaign deserves more love.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a few things. Logic, pardon my joke here real quick. When you said we gave Halo Infinite short shrift, I feel like I turned into Uncle Phil for a second. Because I've never really, I haven't been a multiplayer person since Guardians, right? So for me, Halo has evolved to only being about the campaign. And I screamed to the rooftops about this campaign, and my problem with it, where they let us down, is that they didn't give us more of it, right? The game ends in a place where they're like, don't worry, there's more coming. Here's all of these audio logs of cool stuff that happened, where I only let it slide during the gameplay because I'm like, surely They're not just going to leave Halo to die on the vine, not after they spent all this money and did all this work. And then what happened? But the
and then Everborn, they went, sure, watch us do this, and don't call me Shirley. No more game for you.
Like and I will die on this hill, and I have nothing to prove it but my own personal feelings. The issue they had with retaining players after they had sorted out the structural issues on the multiplayer side, the reason they couldn't bring people back is because they didn't give them another campaign. You show people another campaign, it will bring people back. And when you have the content to meet them, they would do it. But they didn't do that. And they just left it. And another Halo campaign that just gets resolved in a book or something like that. But Infinite, I love. It is my favorite Halo game since Halo 3. I love it so much.
I agree.
So when I say we and I talk about like the annals of history, right? I really mean like the wider like gaming commentary audience writ large. And I'm not talking about, you know, fandoms versus anti-fandoms. Like I just think like in general, the critical take, right? Even though the game got good review scores, right? And this is one of those instances where like you can get good review scores, but there can still be like a lack of gravitas given to an artistic work. You know, from a historical perspective, I think that's one of the things that may have happened with Halo Infinite, that it's not pointed to as kind of one of the seminal first-person shooters. And I wonder if every reason why that happened, right, is correct, and if we're going to revisit that in history. I agree with you in terms of, to me, I felt like what I thought was messaged was that there was going to be kind of a destiny-ification, right, of Halo Infinite, and that we were going to get content drops that were going to extend the story, and that were going to carry us further, and those things would come down, and like I don't know, maybe they would be paid, but they, you know, but they would be separate and discrete from the notion of the battle pass. On multiplayer, I don't necessarily agree with you, but maybe we're talking about two different causalities, and I don't know if Slow Mo's in the chat. I think he and I have talked about this at length because we ran in a crew for a while. But to me, the problem with multiplayer is the reason why it didn't bring people back is because I feel like if you're going to turn the corner and really turn that thing into a game as a service, for me, you have to have definitive structured seasons. Like you can't say season 3 starts now, and then it ends theoretically, hypothetically on this date in, you know, pick a month, August. But every time we get within a 3-week window of that ending date, we're going to kick the can down the road and say, oh, hold on, time out. We're actually not going to start it till October, right? And in the meantime, because we're not going to give you a definitive season-oriented content drop, we're going to give you this event, right? So there's lots of things that multiplayer did well. Lots of people talk about stuff that, you know, whether it's consumer friendly or not consumer friendly, that isn't my personal criteria, right? It's a matter of whether or not the content is engaging. And for me, if you're going to be tied in the wool, and again, I talk about that time, 2019 to 2025, where I was like hardcore in that environment. To me, if you're going to be tightly coupled into that and really engaged, there has to be a definitive beginning and end, you know, to a content window, because that's what you orient, particularly if you're the type of gamer who is, if you're in live streaming or coming from live streaming and you're on what we call that grind, right? And you're like, you know, Call of Duty this week, Destiny 2 this week, Halo Infinite this week, you know, Battlefield the next week, right? And you're on that rotation. That rotation is dependent upon like when those things are beginning and ending,
fresh
and that's
content.
how you ground and orient yourself. And like, and there's also a point of like where a game bores you, and you and your friends who you're rotating around with say, okay, like let's get off this and get to whatever. And so if you're in that loop in Halo Infinite and you feel like, hey, it becomes boring, like I'm gonna go play something else.
Right. So there's structural issues on the multiplayer side that just they couldn't keep up with cadence of expected content drops.
So everyone, real quick, let me catch up on a couple super chats, and then I know you have some games you want to discuss. We're going to rapid fire,
we'll
and
get
then
to at some point we'll get to,
and then you will regale us with your slander, because I know you have some. But here we go, real quick.
I just have
Let's
questions,
start
not slander.
Sure. Oh, yeah, questions. We'll get to those. J-Mac, who's been a member for 18 months. Sir, you are prolific. You are a scholar. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for continuing to support us. He says, shout out to the Gaming Circle podcast. K. Asante, Everborn Saga, and the panel. Salute, gentlemen. Hashtag Graybeards in the building. Thank you so much for continuing to be here, sir. Thank you.
Always being here, man, since day one.
Since day one. That brother is great, man. He is great. And the great Soil Tech with a $2 super chat. He says, please remember to like and subscribe and share out. He is also a great member of our community.
Okay,
he's our moderator. Go ahead.
I would like to bring some shameful information that I found out today. Do you know that this channel has not hit 3,000 subs yet? After all the work we put in, after all we're so close to. We just hit 2,800. If you are listening to this and you are not subscribed, please do us the honor. Do not shame us or yourselves. Subscribe.
Everyone also put shame on the fact that you guys have like 100 viewers and like 3 likes. Wait, what is that?
Come on.
Heresy.
People.
Heresy.
Come on, people. Help us out. We appreciate it. The great Huggy.
If anybody needs a guide to create more Google accounts than one to be able to do maybe 5 subs instead of just 1 per person, that is also
we don't. Well, hold on now, because we don't want to. I'm not gonna say anything.
I'll charge more.
I'm not gonna say anything.
Does that work?
Don't do it, Everborn.
But we
do not do it. Don't do it.
I'm gonna
move
shut
on.
up. We're
moving on. Huggy Chani, $2 super chat. He says, 2007 versus 2017. Where's 1998? Now,
in the 20th century, where we left it.
Ooh. I think that is a new challenger wanting to join our debate, sir. Hargeet, get your pencils ready. We might be calling on you for round 2. I'm just saying. All right. Very well. Okay. The great Lucius Augustus with a $5 super chat. He says, people always say 2007 or 2017. No one ever talks about 1997. Quake 2, GoldenEye, Final Fantasy 7, Crash 2, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Fallout, Turok, etc. See, there are a lot of combatants in our chat. They might be ready to.
I think we should qualify that the point of this debate is we are, no offense to anyone, and no one should be offended because I'm 99% sure I'm older than all of those super chats, but I think we're having a conversation of modern gaming, and we're not necessarily like going all the way back to the beginning of time, because I might call out like a year in 1970 or 1980 as being a greater year, but we tried to make this relevant for the kids, I think is what we're saying.
He said he tried to do something y'all would recognize. I appreciate the ageist comments there, sir. Appreciate you. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Because usually ageism works against us. This should work for us. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
JD Gamer, $5 super chat. He says, nah, Kay. I know you heard the news. Don't run from that topic. PlayStation is going straight multiplat. Where are those that said it would never happen? And then he continues with another $5 super chat. You know, he's prolific on these Saturday mornings. And he says, I think the actual comment was that the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. It appears that those who are actually inside the data believe otherwise. SOT, the panel. Shout out to the panel. He finishes.
What is SOT? Shout out to the?
Shout out to the panel.
Shout out to the panel. Okay.
Yes. Okay. He finishes with 2007 was better, fewer games, but more impactful. So he's here, ready for that battle. Ready for that battle.
I have nothing to do with this debate. My name is Bennett, and I ain't in it.
That's right.
Joe,
JD Gamer, remember that one, JD. That's all I'm saying.
My name is Paul, and that's between y'all. But what if 2025 is just the greatest year? Because look at all these options, and we don't even have enough time to play all these games that are here.
Sith Lord, who's been a member for 15 months, says PlayStation is coming to all platforms, is good for all gamers. I don't disagree. Thank you so much. And I know that may be a dirty word around in some circles, but I don't disagree with you, sir. Sith Lord, good job. The Xbox expansion path to the great Luke Law. He says much love. He's been a member for 10 months. Sir, you are prolific. You are brilliant. I love you. Thank you so much for being here as usual. The great BT Maverick 707 gifted 5 memberships. Always great to have you in our chats and in our Discord as well. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And then Hollywood Rules finishes us up with $2 super chat. Good morning, Graybeards. Get him, Saga. Now, we appreciate you. You had to, encourage him like that. It is what it is. And then he finishes off with a $2 super chat. He says Fantastic Four was amazing. Kirby on screen. I have not seen it.
I did watch Thunderbolts last night, and I gotta say,
was it good?
It was fine, but it wasn't as good as you made it out to be, sir. But we can talk about that. We can talk about that maybe in the Discord or something.
I guess it's the lowest of hanging fruit. The lowest of hanging fruit. So I guess it was a low bar to climb. Okay, sure. I'm not the only one saying it's good.
It was better than Captain America 4, but
sir. All right. $2 super chat. Hollywood rules. He says when we all play, we win. Now, are you being facetious with that? Because I know that's been a noose that's been thrown around a little by little. But okay.
I agree with Infinite Umbra's score, 7 out of 10, which is, again, not a bad
score.
Yeah.
But more often than not, back in the day, it was a 5 or a 4. That was their average.
Recent Marvel fare, I think it was better than the most recent stuff. All right, really quickly, because we got some games and we do want to move on to some stuff. So I have not, because we were away traveling to the convention, blah blah blah. You guys know that already. Have not had a time to play a lot of games. So there's so many games that I had bought, because I am a drunken sailor when it comes to Steam. Right, I just buy games and then they end up in the backlog because you showed me a good trailer. This is why when we were having a discussion about Metacritic the other day, I'm like, I don't care. You show me 5 minutes of unedited gameplay and a good trailer, I'm buying the game, and reviews be damned. But anyway, so I had a few games that I wanted to try out. Obviously, Donkey Kong Bonanza was one of them, which I started last night. We'll get to that last. But first, we will start with one that I was highly anticipating, and that is Shadow Labyrinth. That is the new take on Pac-Man. It's from Bandai Namco.
Oh yeah.
Secret Level did an episode on it. And you already know, like, Metroidvanias are catnip for me. I didn't like it.
How'd they do? You didn't like it.
It is a profoundly, I don't know if it's the art style. I don't know what it is. I just find the textures ugly. Yeah. And the animation style, and Aaron, I don't know if you're familiar with this.
I saw the press.
It's a little cartoony looking.
The animation style, they use spine, or a tool-like spine, which basically is, you have your different body parts, and then you set up bones, and then you move the bones to keyframes, and then it will do the work in between. So you're not talking about hand-drawn frame by frame art. You're just
it's a skeleton animation system.
Yes, exactly. So I'm gonna assume spine is what they use because it's one of the biggest one, but Unity has its own built-in skeleton animation. But that's besides the point. If that can look right if you play with weights, but here it just feels very cheap, and it feels to me like Oddworld style textures. The art design here it leaves so much to be desired, right? Like, if this game came out in 2003, I would say okay. But
besides the art style, though,
nice to look at.
Besides the art style, well, I agree with you. What do you think of the actual gameplay? Is it a fun game that just looks bad?
I mean, it's very difficult at times. They do introduce a lot of new mechanics, and I'm early in the game, so I don't want to say that it's not fun, but like it is.
I guess
not,
ultimately the question I'm asking is if this came out and nobody knew Pac-Man, would this be a game that people would play, or is this all because of Pac-Man?
I think it would be just another Metroidvania, and I play a lot of these things, so it is doing things different, and it does have the Pac-Man twist. But if I'm comparing it to its contemporaries, I don't know that I stick with this one. I could be playing Mandragora, right? I could be playing. What's
why are you teabagging in the Pac-Man game though, Everborn? What's going on?
Wow.
But again, the production value of it just doesn't meet what I think it should, especially if you're going to use the Pac-Man IP. And again, I just came off of playing Metroid Dread, right? And some other games. So I don't know, man. I just am very disappointed by this one. But
wasted
again,
opportunity.
Yeah, whoever's doing the art direction and just anyway, I don't want to be too down on it, but it's just not for me.
But can I ask, what is the Pac-Man thing here?
It is exactly what you saw in the secret level thing. It is it's trying to escape something. It is not telling you everything, and then very soon you find out it's kind of a demon.
But whatever Pac-Man related gameplay, what is it that we get in this game that is related to the traditional game?
That thing can stick to walls and consume things. So Pac-Man's thing is to consume, and then you use those to update the skill tree. But again, I'm not very far into it. I think I'm only like an hour or so, or a little bit more into it. I'm just saying, and again, I also want to put this out there. There's so many games that I wanted to play, right? So in a vacuum, maybe I would have given it a little bit more grace. But knowing that there's 5 other games that I wanted to get to.
Real quick, everyone, say, kids, get off my lawn. Say it real quick.
No, I won't, because I like these things and I tell people to play these things. But what I'm saying is, like, when I know I just bought a bunch of games and I'm trying to figure out which one I'm going to play next, if you don't grab me within the first hour or so,
you lost me.
And I don't think I could look at this game because the art styles, the textures are so ugly. It does not scale well to a big 4K TV. That's another thing. But it just, I'm sorry. There's a lot of other stuff to play, and it didn't.
All right, man. What else you got?
All right. Next, we have. This is a game that I revisited, right? Because it was too difficult for me at first, and this is Kazan First Berserker. They put out 2 updates because the game was so difficult. There was no difficulty setting when it first launched, and then they had a normal mode that came out shortly after launching. Right? It was actually easy and then normal because normal was hard, right? So they finally put out the Everborn Saga mode, and now you're good. Wait a minute. So they put out the easy mode, and then that was too difficult, so they had to put out another mode for beginner.
Okay.
And then the boss that I was stuck on playing in the old easy mode, I was able to beat. But I think the beginner mode is a little bit too easy, so it's not challenging. So I'm still gonna have to, if I stick with it, I'm gonna have to go back up to what was easy before and is now normal, and now there's a hard mode. So it's very weird. This game was not balanced properly when it launched.
And it cannot be a problem between the keyboard and the seat. You sure about that?
It's not me. I'm not the one who added 2 new modes after launch. Right?
Well, maybe they shot that shot too highly. Maybe they shot that shot too highly, and there were too many Everborn sagas out there, and they needed to dumb it down. I'm just saying.
That's fantastic, but they the ones who had to add a new mode. So it ain't just me. That's all I'm saying.
Sure. Yeah. You're not wrong. Now, I mean, FromSoft has been fighting that battle for many years now.
Yeah, but FromSoft gets it right. They balance those things to where, like, when you lose, you know it's your fault. This didn't feel that way, and I think that's why they had to add those modes. Like when I die in an Elden Ring, I'm like, I see where I messed up. I was too over. I tried to get another hit. I didn't dodge in time. I was like, those things is just, they're difficult, but they're fair. This was unfairly difficult, and that's why they had to add those modes. Now, the other thing that I tried was Wu Chang, right? And I'm playing the Steam version, because you can get that on CD keys for like $36. I know it's in Game Pass, but at $36, why not, right? Add it to the collection. One thing I will say, and again, I only just started the game, I hear people making accusations of salacious character design, and I don't see that because she is fully closed at the beginning of the game, at least. I don't know what happens later, but within the first hour of the game, you're just a chick with a sword, and I don't get it. Right?
Okay.
So it is.
Does it have I don't see it, but does it have the Stellar Yams camera angles?
Not, you can't even jump in this game, so
Okay,
I don't know.
okay.
It's a
you know what I'm talking about, right? The
I know
angles
what
is a
you're
little bit lower than it should be, and you're just like, I feel weird playing this.
We can also talk about my Stellar Blade playthrough so far.
Yeah,
which
you
I'm a
played
few
them
hours
yams
in.
too. Yes, that's right. That's right.
And we'll come to that in a second. But this game, I had to put this game down because my God, on a 4090, this thing can randomly turn into a flip book.
Wow. Also, it's badly optimized.
Horribly. And I'm not even gonna blame this on UE5 because not even Wukong did this. Like, it is just, they got some work to do, man. So I am interested to come back to this, and what kind of solidified it for me is that I had just played First Berserker again, so that they're doing the cell shaded thing. It is pretty well optimized, at least in compared to this. So it doesn't have those stuttery issues, and it's also an Unreal Engine game, I think. So it's very easy to see that, and also playing Stellar Blade, like, there's just no excuse for the way this game stutters. So
real quick, Everborn, Roshan Eppinger has an interesting retort to what I said there, and I have a feeling this is a put a pin in it for a Discord discussion. But I want to address it real quick, which he says the Stellar Blade angles. You mean the Ninja Gaiden angles, right? I would advocate, even though the angles are similar, I would advocate that in Ninja Gaiden and in Stellar Blade, those angles were placed for different reasons. If you know what I'm saying.
I don't know if I'm gonna agree with you, because Ninja Gaiden is very salacious with those female character designs. And
no, absolutely.
about that.
No, but I guess because you don't play as them, right? So that
yes, you do.
Cameras don't.
Yes, you do play as them. Did you play the new one? Well, the Black 2 that came out.
Well, not Black 2. Yes, there's a lot of, but you start mainly as that main
but if you only played the first opening levels, like every 3 levels,
then
you're
yes,
playing as one of those
changed
females.
up.
There's 3 different females,
true. That is true.
And they're naked, and nobody cares. It's just Stellar Blade people have the problem with it.
True.
But anyway,
That's
the
true.
point is,
let's continue. He said, and they're naked.
This game, I'm gonna need to hear about some patches, and then I will come back to it. I'm interested in it. The opening is fine. Very strangely, if you play dubbed, right, it's a British actress that's doing the voice of the main character, and then the NPCs all sound like they're speaking English, but they sound like they're voiced by Chinese native people. So it's weird that they decided to go with a British accent for the main character in a game that is based on Chinese lore. It's very strange. But
and for those who don't know, Everborn Saga has a thing about accents, as do I. Let's be fair. It is what it is.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel right for this game.
Sure.
So people think I just like British accents. I like accents that I like the verisimilitude. Okay. But anyway, so that's this game. I will come back to it later. I can't speak much on it because it was so stuttery that I had to turn it off. And now
Dorian is like evil in our chat today. I'm sorry.
But I mean, he's right. People do. Well, I don't want to get into that.
Let's not do that.
Now, the other thing is Stellar Blade. I am sorry. I'm sorry to anyone who loves Stellar Blade. If Stellar Blade, the character design looked like Kate, I don't think anybody would be paying attention to this game.
So you don't like the combat?
Serviceable. No, I like it, but I don't love it to the point that it is just like standoutish. And I feel like it got a lot of coverage because of that design, and they did that on purpose.
So are you saying?
I'm not saying they should change the design.
No, that's not my question. My question is, are you saying that the articles aren't there to keep you? For those who know.
Let's just say she has a very pretty smile, but the personality is kind of...
Oh, bro,
just all right.
What are we doing right now?
Okay. But yeah. And again, maybe I need to unlock more of the skill tree, but it is just, it is a serviceable action game. And for a first outing, top marks to shift up. and I can't wait to see what they do next. But it is just fine.
Okay.
To say that.
Okay.
And Aaron, you've played more of the games than me, so you can tell me if it like past the 7 or 8 hour mark that it kind of expands more. But where I am now, like the character design is the most interesting thing about the game.
Yeah, if you think that the character design is the most interesting thing, then I would say drop it, because that's the least interesting thing in my opinion. I think the gameplay loop, the combat, the exploration, the story, and the music. Oh man,
The music is the best thing about the game.
Like there is so many good things about this
love the
game
music
from
in
a
the game.
first get-go, kind of from Shift Up. So I would say, yeah, but each to their own. If the characters is what keeping you, then let them keep you as long as they can, I guess. I would just say the things that is going on when the game opens up and it becomes more of you entering a sort of a hub world where you can go out in different areas and explore more and get that kind of vibe that you got from, I'm not sure if you've played through Nier Automata or those games.
I have
where
not.
you explore into the but there is absolutely a place where you have to be mentally to be able to sit down and play these types of games. When I say these types of games, I'm thinking that there is a formula that is very old with this game, but it's also very well executed when you're actually there exploring and collecting stuff and fighting mini bosses and just doing wild stuff. And if you choose to then go down the road and finish the game off, it pays off if you're invested in that story and in that world again. So I think it's
where I am now, and you can tell me where I am in it. Like your friend got killed, and now you're trying to get to the thing that killed her, so you can get your revenge. I'm sure there's more to the story than that, but I know we're in a post-apocalyptic world. I'm only saying that the combat isn't drawing me to stick with the game, and I gotta wonder if the character design wasn't what it was, how would people feel about this game? Would you have the same level of staunch defenders of it?
I think most people who defend the game defend its other qualities.
I'm sorry. Game Logic, would you repeat that? Because I think that so say we all. Go ahead.
It's Gunnar approved.
Oh God.
Okay. So thank you.
Yeah, but anyway, I don't want to like re-adjudicate Stellar Blade. I'm not saying by any stretch it is a bad game, and I think it is a stellar feat for a first-time developer, and I applaud it for all of that. I'm just saying, to me, and what my tastes are, it's just okay. It wouldn't stand out if it weren't for the character design.
Yeah.
But
may I ask, the fighting, are you comfortable with the parry mechanic? Like, do you feel good about
parry
that?
mechanic, especially after you, because you can get something in the skill tree to make the timing on the parrying easier. So that makes it like very clear when to do the parry. I just don't like there's something about the way the enemies move when they're slow. They're like too slow. And then when they're fast, I don't know. This could just be a me problem, but it's not standing out in terms of the kind of game that it is for me.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
I mean, I would agree. Like, it's not all the way Lies of P. It is not all the way Devil May Cry. It is absolutely somewhere in between all of those things, and it is competent enough to keep me excited. What I think it does well, and I'm not sure how much you have, dig down in those skill trees, but I love how the system.
There's some of them that I haven't opened up yet.
Because in regular games, you might think that if you parry, you're better able to punish your enemy.
Right.
And there is still a lot of that here. So the parry system in Stellar Blade, again, like you have some extra powers within the parry power that can be utilized by stunning the enemy. But the evades are actually the ones that fills up the bar where you will make most damage. So by evading later, in late game, by evading, you actually build up quicker a meter to punish them harder and do more damage. Where the parry mechanic is more, it's building up a meter to stun the enemies and then make, quantitative damage, I would say. And I think it's a cool system because a lot of times it's the opposite way.
Yeah, one thing I didn't like about the dodge is that you have to do the dodge with a direction depending on the kind of dodge you want to do, but it's not like situational. It's like literally you want to dodge one way, you have to press down and dodge depending on the color of the thing that they're doing. And that is a little bit too much for me to think about in the moment. But again, that's more of a me problem.
Yeah.
But again, so that's Stellar Blade's the other game I'm playing. And then last, and then we can move on to this thing, is Donkey Kong Bonanza, which I put about an hour into.
So before we continue that Donkey Kong Bonanza conversation, real quick, will the ninjas come for us? What do you think?
No. Well, if you show gameplay, you should be able to show somebody's gameplay. I don't know. Just don't play their music, right?
I got a banana in the fridge if you want me to get one.
All right. But anyway, it is a beautiful game.
Wishful thinking. I did not even think about that. That's on you.
But it is Donkey Kong Bonanza. Beautiful game. I'm literally playing it as we speak. Right?
Don't do that. The ninja's gonna come for you. Right. You're not allowed to show Nintendo on the screen.
Here. They can relax.
Oh yeah, they don't care. They don't care. Continue.
But I don't know how I feel about it yet. After an hour, I feel like I can close my eyes and just press the Y button, which to sane people is the X button on every other controller, but whatever. Well, not really. I'm just thinking about Xbox, I guess. But anyway, the point is, press Y, and I can just get through the whole thing so far. I'm interested to see the more elements that they add, but I have not even unlocked So it's still a rock on my back.
I will push back on you on
Rose
one
or
point.
What her name is.
Just 1 point. I'll push back on you on 1 point, and that is to say that it is not an X as it should be everywhere, because it is still X for me. This is the controller that I use to play it, and I can still have X, as you can see. You just have to go get one.
Symmetrical joysticks?
Yes, they are. Unfortunately, yes, they are. They are symmetrical joysticks. But the button layout is correct, and it works on Switch too.
But
I'm sorry.
I absolutely love the art style, and it is fantastic the way it runs in handheld. And seeing like this sort of graphical bump in the Switch 2 is also great. So everything about it is great. It is just not yet, because I haven't seen some of the variety that it has to offer and the powers that I'll eventually get to unlock. But right now,
I won't go too far in the game because I don't want to surprise.
No, I don't care. Those aren't spoilers for me. I don't care. That's super weird to me that you think Donkey Kong could be spoiled, right? You get gold and you collect bananas.
Actually, play the game. There are some spoilers in it, but continue. Yes.
Yes, the rock turns into a woman that sings. I get it, but it doesn't. Anyway, whatever. That's my problem. The point is, I don't care what you show me of the game. It won't ruin it for me, because this is about the experience and doing it yourself and figuring things out. All I'm saying is I have not gotten to enough of the game to be hooked yet, and I don't see the people are saying, game of the year. I'm not there yet because I've only just started the game. So talk to me next week. I might change my mind and say this beats out Expedition 33. Spoiler alert, that won't happen. But I am open to that being the case. Give me some more time with it.
Everborn Saga. I'll give you 15 minutes. And before I give you that 15 minutes, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for being here. We are heading to the second half of our show, which will bring with it some interesting conversation. Trust us. Please hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Please consider subscribing if you're new here. This is all the hosts thing. But before we get to our debate, which is the 2007 versus 2027, which we really want to have, Mr. Everborn Saga pulled an audible this morning because he has some conversation that he needs to get off his chest. Everborn, the floor is yours. I will be on mute. Go for it.
So I've long said that Nintendo, Xbox, and Sony are subject to the same market forces, but because of their positions in the market, they will have to react differently. But react they must, right? I've said this for a long time, and a lot of the time I would get this pushback and say, well, just because Xbox has to do things, don't try to paint that as a picture for everybody else, right? I keep hearing this. And then we have we see Sony moving in certain ways, right? First, it was we're gonna port some games to the PC. First, people thought that would never happen, and then it became, well, it's just the older games, and then the window started shortening, and then it was just the live service games that were day and date, and then it was some single player games that were day and date, like Until Dawn or certain director's cuts, and then they were like, well, those don't count because reasons, right? And the goalpost kept moving, and then it was, well, they're not going to publish any games on, they're not going to put any games on Xbox. And then I say, wait a minute, they have games on Xbox. And they were like, no, it's not published by them, so that doesn't count, right? And then you get the Helldivers news, and then the Helldivers all of a sudden makes sense because it's a live service game, even though no one ever said that before. But now magically it began to make sense. And then now, and this is just a job posting, right? Seems very official, seems very legit, but PlayStation is looking for a multi-platform account manager. And one of the things, when Hiroki Totoki, when Hideki Nishino, when the new CFO, when Herman Holtz, please, I don't want to disrespect her name. I don't know the name of the new CFO. If someone knows that, because she's a very big executive, so I don't want to.
Well, just to tune that up, that the person you're talking about was the PlayStation division CFO, not the corporate CFO. The corporate CFO was the guy asking the questions.
Yes, but the PlayStation division CFO. Do you remember her name?
No, I'm not any better than you are in that regard. I don't recall her name right off the top of my head.
But the point is, what we kept hearing from people, right, when they say off-platform, they're not talking about Xbox. And now we have a job listing that explicitly lists Xbox. So I am not here to gloat. What I am asking, and what I've long said, is that it seems like no one understands moves in the market until their favorite platform does it. And then magically it makes sense. So when Xbox decided to buy all the $80 billion worth of publishers that were already third-party publishers, and decided to keep them as third-party publishers, but also started putting their games, more of their games, not all, not yet anyway, but putting more of their games onto the PlayStation, because everybody seemed to be cool with cloud and PC. Put them on PlayStation, people lost their minds, including myself for a time. I'm not leaving myself out of that. But a lot of people said this is as a result of a failure. A lot of people said, and by the way, Phil didn't help with that because he kind of said similar, but anyway, a lot of people said that, well, there's no reason to get an Xbox. Xbox is going to get out of the business altogether. A lot of people said, where's the identity of the platform? So now, if Sony is going to put more of their first-party games on the Xbox, does the same thinking still hold true? Is there still a reason to own a PlayStation where there wasn't one for an Xbox? Is there still, will the platform still have an identity? Or do we understand it now? And I have one specific question for you, Logic. Everything else I was shadowboxing, but this is a very specific question for you, Logic. Looking at this job posting, we had a discussion 2 weeks ago. Maybe it was 3. I think it was 3 weeks ago. It was 3 weeks ago. I think VG Fight School was here. And I asked about Helldivers, is this a shift in strategy or pivot in strategy? And you said no, because it's not a major, single player brand identity IP. Does this lead you to believe, if this plays out, and you can tell me if you think this is going to play out differently, does this lead you to believe PlayStation is actually on a pivot?
Yeah, so best way for me to answer this is just to write some tweets that I've written this morning, and I'll just read them to you. So this is responding. So first of all, what I would characterize as like what's going on, right, to put this in context, is what I have said is that there's a job posting, and I'm not commenting on it much more because we don't know what it means beyond a job posting. So there are PlayStation fans who are heavily engaged on the platform and entrenched in the fandom, who this is a cause for concern for them. Whether, what properties are going to Xbox, when those properties are going to Xbox. I've seen comments that talk about, and this is one that I agree with, that, we're now at the state where the messaging is potentially muddled, right? Where there's been indications of what the plan is, and then this job posting comes out, and because there's no voice track to go along with the job posting. Now, what I would say is I don't know that there needs to be. The people who hover on job postings and extract them and post them as news when we don't have any other context around them, that's not a thing that I do. So like, people can have those conversations. To me, there's no tangible news around it, so it doesn't mean anything to me. Ditto for the same people there are people who hawk patents, right? And when a patent goes up, they post it without any context, as if it's news. And to me, it hasn't hit the point of news yet. What I said in response to a person who expressed concern about, I've got to watch which way they're moving. I don't trust them. And my stance is, today, as of right now, I do not believe that the big games, marquee titles, marquee IP from the S tier studios, Guerrilla, Insomniac, Naughty Dog, Polyphony, Sony Santa Monica, Sucker Punch, will go to other platforms other than the PC on the 15 to 24 month delay. I could see collections or anthologies of older games from those houses going at an outside chance until I'm told otherwise. And then I can see it being up to consumers if they are willing to wait. I've always said I wouldn't mind waiting on PC, although I don't wait, because I'm getting the better version of the game, and sometimes with more content. So
real quick,
yeah, go ahead.
Before you retort, because it's that day, and we about that life, ladies and gentlemen. Paris Lily, good morning, sir. Console Warren since 1997. Well, 1979.
No. That is a life to death date, the birth date and death date, 1979 to 2025.
Paris, if you're here, welcome, sir. Shout out to you. What's going on, man?
Yes, that was rest in peace to Console Wars, and good morning to everybody.
Wow.
And I will fully admit, obviously, the news, but I am here because Logic is here. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come up, other than to the conversation.
Damn, Aaron,
we had.
No love for you.
I'm feeling it all the way across the pond.
I'm just messing with you, Paris.
I think I'm
Shots fired.
Boy, shots fired already.
No worries.
No, but obviously it's good to talk to you again.
No, I can take it. It's okay.
Everborn, Jesus. No, seriously though, I came up here because Logic is here, because it was the conversation that we were having a few weeks ago, and Logic asked the question. He said, "Do you think we will see basically like a single player game come to Xbox, like where was a time frame?" And I said, by the end of the generation. Was my answer. And I think seeing this job description, what you just said, Logic, is completely valid, because when HR writes these things up, they don't necessarily reflect 100% what the position is going to be. But I will say, looking at it, it was pretty specific about what platforms these games would eventually come to. Obviously, we just saw Helldivers, come to Xbox, and we were even saying then that is clearly a sign that they're going to experiment. They're going to see. This kind of tells me, and this is my interpretation of this, I'm not celebrating console wars and none of that stuff, that PlayStation is going to take this a step further. Live service games are 100% going to be on Xbox. And I think, as you were starting to allude to, we will see legacy games. At no point do I think they're going to do day and date. I do not think that's their strategy at all, because they still see value in their hardware. They're going to use this as a way to potentially tempt you to not want to wait, and you're just going to go pick up a PlayStation because you want to play Ghost of Yotei, you want to play Spider-Man 3 or whatever, and not wait 18 months for it to come to PC or Xbox. But I think we're now at that point where these games are essentially going to have timed exclusivity on platforms, and then they're going to show up on other platforms, because I think my thought on this the entire time has been, it's about making money. Like, I will give you an example from my own job. We had a record year last year, right? Great. This year we had all hands. We're actually doing better than we did last year, but it's behind what they wanted to be. So it's like, you can never win. You know what I'm saying? So this is why I see it in gaming, that they constantly have to grow. They constantly have to generate more revenue. And as we talked about before, these gaming budgets are out of control. It's taking too long to make them. Something has to give. And I think this is the give. I think this is a way to reach more people by putting games where people are, potentially, to pick up and play the game. So that's all I want to say. This is just my thoughts. It's not a celebration. I know people are losing their minds online, but I just think this is just the next logical step.
So, a quick aside, and Logic, I'll let you respond. A quick aside, just because no one's really mentioned it. This job description is not for one job. Technically, it's for 3 jobs, because it is the senior director of multi-platform account management, who will then work with the senior manager of sales, who also works on Xbox and PC, and also the manager of platform and planning, who also works on Xbox and PC, which means there are other jobs who will be Xbox focused as well, which they may not be talking about directly here. Everyone, Saga, you are on mute if you're speaking, sir.
Some of those jobs are already
filled.
They're saying
yes,
who you
exactly.
But again,
which means those are already in the mix. This is the first time we're seeing it, but these guys have already been in the mix. Go ahead, everyone. Yeah.
So to me, once again, there's a lot of stuff that Xbox, first of all, a lot of Xbox fans lost their mind for the last 2 years. And I feel like with this, and Logic, I know I do appreciate your answer, because nothing has happened yet. And so when it does, we can have a deeper level of that conversation. But, I'm all about reading the tea leaves, so I'm going to talk now. What I think is, we can now have some more mature conversation instead of the sky is falling, right? And now this is something you've always said, Kay Asante. If you want to know what PlayStation's going to do, look what Xbox did 3 years ago. And it's usually pretty close, right?
Not exactly, but
3 to 5.
There. Yeah. Yes.
Right.
And the actions are close. They're like 85% usually.
Right.
Yeah.
And Paris, to what you said, if I've learned anything in this generation in terms of predictions, is to not speak in absolutes. Right. So it is sound thinking to say that they won't do in day and date, but I just don't know. I don't know anything, because when I walked into this generation thinking is complete. We're in the upside down right now. So I am along for the ride, but I think Scouts and Warriors are life support.
So I think everyone, you kind of alluded to maybe some of the answers to your own questions, right, in the things that you said before. And so, core competencies and strengths, right? Microsoft is a software and services company at its core. Sony, at least partially, is still a hardware company. And so, again, I always draw this comparison of Apple to Microsoft, right? Apple does hardware, and it's invested in the business of giving you a reason to buy their hardware. So part of the differences that I see in what's going on in my kind of pushback on Paris, Everborn, you mentioned, why would you buy a PlayStation? What is the company's identity? And I think in order for PlayStation to continue with a strategy that is based on the strength of its business, it has to maintain that, which means it can't become a ubiquitous software everywhere type of company. you would have to give people reasons to buy a PlayStation 6. And so I don't think, in my view, that Helldivers 2 resonates with a product differentiation on like why to buy a PlayStation 5 or why to buy a PlayStation 6. I don't think it doesn't rank for me as a marquee property and a marquee IP. The ones that I rattled off before from those core studios, and kind of we're getting to the point now where I'd also start to maybe add Housemarque to that bundle, right? Those are reasons where there's a product differentiator on identification with the brand and the brand's identity and why people might buy a thing. If those games start showing up on Xbox, and when we say Xbox now, I feel like you'd have to base that on an assumption, which I don't think is the correct assumption today, that you're talking about an Xbox console. Once you're talking about an Xbox PC hybrid that hosts the Steam store, then those games are going to go to that device because they're going to go to Steam. So that to me isn't really a delta. So if those games start showing up on an Xbox, what has traditionally been known as a console, in 18 to 24 months, that's also, by the way, why I think those job positions are listed as Xbox PC, because those devices are essentially going to become synonymous. Then that does start to cause a friction area, right? And a point of tension for consumers on brand identification. If those titles from those marquee studios, from those marquee first-party studios, and those IPs start showing up on other consoles, right, that becomes a problem. And so, Paris, my disagreement or pushback with you on the notion that this is all about money, again, PlayStation derives money from people buying hardware and being into an ecosystem, so that when they buy apples, they also buy broccoli, steak, fish, milk, and eggs, right? There's a knock-on effect of a person being in the ecosystem, being on their hardware and buying from their storefront and expending money, right, on a recurring continuous basis for high ARPU customers. If those customers cease to be on their hardware in their ecosystem, then that starts to create a problem with their profitability and how much money they make. So I think today PlayStation is still invested in the notion of selling hardware, first-party hardware that is firmly entrenched in their ecosystem and tightly coupled. And in order to do that, they need to maintain brand identity. They need to give people a reason to buy the console. And I don't know what that reason is, other than those games that you can play exclusively on PlayStation, and or if we are going to flip, then at least on that hardware first and with significant advance beyond other consoles.
So if I may answer that, I know you.
Oh, I got to push back to the pushback of the pushback.
Yeah.
If I can, please let me go first, because I need to push back on this.
And then I'll go after you.
It has to be about money, because if it wasn't, why are games on PC?
Just before I let you go on, Paris, we both landed on that it's about money.
I thought you said it wasn't.
No. My point is that money for PlayStation is inclusive of people buying hardware and people buying games and people consuming services on their hardware.
And I don't disagree with that. And I pretty much was saying the same thing, that they clearly still value the hardware and the brand. That's why you won't see day and date. I don't think that at all. But my point is, expanding the Xbox has to be about generating more revenue, because you're already doing it on PC. Obviously, they're going to put it on Switch as well. The live service stuff was a no-brainer. If you're creating these type of positions internally, it's got to be about your back catalog. It has to be. So I don't see how this isn't, and you're agreeing with me, this, at the end of the day, this is about, we need to generate more revenue. Because if it's just about the brand, if it's just about getting people on PlayStation hardware, you would not be putting single player games on another platform, which they're already doing on PC, and they're simply going to be expanding that to Switch, and it looks like Xbox as well. That's all I'm saying.
You believe, and that, just to call out another delta between our voice tracks, you always say or consistently say it's about generating more revenue, and I always consistently and am insistent upon saying it's about generating more profit. Those two things are not the same. Because there is cost involved. And everyone, just before you go, because like your pushback to my pushback, right? I'm also still aligned, because it's what I currently know. that when we talk about the differences between what PlayStation is doing and what Xbox is doing, the voice track on Xbox went from it's only 4 games. This is the triage rubric by which we're going to decide what games go to other platforms, to within the span of 6 months saying there's no red line, right? The PlayStation strategy and structure right now is inclusive of a slide that talks about a structured portfolio distribution of titles and IP, right? Which talks about what games will go where, in what timelines. This job posting talks about anchoring that to the notion of the studio schedule. There's some comment, I think maybe in one of my Twitter threads, that talks about, it could be fiscal year. So, but no, that's not what the job posting says. The job posting says that it's tightly coupled to the studio schedule, and alludes to a time phasing of a game comes out from a studio, first party, theoretically on PlayStation hardware, and then it goes elsewhere, right? At the mid-range point, and it talks about right beyond the 1 year point of the studio's release. So this is the reason why I draw differences between what the two platforms are doing, right? PlayStation has today put out a structured format saying that basically every title is not going to every platform in the exact same way. And they talked about that at the investor meeting, that it's careful growth, it's a measured plan, it's care, right, and feeding of what properties are going to what platforms, and putting the PlayStation platform first. So that's the only reason why I see those things as different.
All right, so I'm going to read this again. This is a quote from Herman Holtz in 2020 about Horizon Zero Dawn going to PC. This is from The Verge. I can put the link to the thing for anybody who wants to read it, but trust me.
Is there any chance I could bypass this because I already know what you're going to read? I get it.
Well, let me say it for them.
Go ahead.
And then you bypass it. So still, Holtz maintains Horizon's fate doesn't signal a larger trend. To maybe put a few minds at ease, releasing one first-party AAA title to PC doesn't necessarily mean that every game will now come to PC, he told the PlayStation blog. That's from 2020, Herman Holtz, regarding putting a game on PC. What is the outlook on PlayStation games coming to PC today? It is different from what he said, right? And even when we talk about no red lines with Xbox, Xbox has released more exclusive games this year than PlayStation. That's a fact. So we can say what the perception and the feeling is, but these guys are doing very similar things, and they're making statements that when the landscape changes, they change their minds. And I am only saying this, the reason I'm doing all of this is to say, perhaps once we get out of the doom and gloom and saying one is full third party and the other one is not because they still want to sell you hardware and all of that, right? And by the way, yes, that is the point. Phil got killed for it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So everybody,
but last thing I'll say, the point is maybe we can actually talk about these things and why they are happening, as opposed to saying one platform is dead or the other platform is just like, they're both doing stuff that is different than they used to. Now we can talk about why. But go ahead, Logic.
So one thing that I'll
this notion.
No, that's fine. The one thing that I'll raise up is, and I always appreciate the conversation. I will say there's a difficulty here because, in my opinion, you often conflate our disagreements with things that PlayStation fans are saying, right? So there's a lot of what you've gone over which are not things that I say. So
He's using your shadow boxing, sir. He says you're shadow boxing.
Well,
yeah. So there's.
Well, go ahead. I'll finish your point, and then I'll.
So there's a significant difference, right? So my difference of perspective. So first of all, let me go back kind of at a high level to our difference of perspective. We haven't necessarily, we haven't had a difference of opinion in terms of, you say they are subject to the same market forces, and what I always say is that they are subject to the same market forces in different ways. Right. And therefore, they're going to respond differently. And then this is what a thing says. Right. And this is what the other company says. And this is what they do. And this is what they do. And those things are different. And I always say there's a nuance. Right. And there's a granular detail in those differences of responses. And to me, I don't say that they're the exact same thing. right? And they respond differently because of where they are positioned in the market and what their consumer base is. There's a difference in what PlayStation has to do because it has a number of people on its platform. And there are things that are more impactful to it when it makes changes. What people said about Phil, like that, again, that's not what I said, right? So when you talk about the context of the Herman Hulst statement versus the Phil Spencer statement, again, my reason why I view that as a delta is because Herman Hulst says that, and yea, verily, things may have changed and he may have done something different. The time lag between when he said that and what they did, to me, is different than what we saw from February 2024 through October of 2024, right? Where in pretty rapid succession, there was a pretty consistent, right, domino effect, rainfall of what was said they were going to do and where things shifted. And we have the accusation out in the air that when things were said, clearly things, because of the way software development works and the amount of time that things take, clearly things had to be in motion at the studios. So that's the only reason
even
that they're different.
August, when you think about it, right? Sorry for cutting you off.
No, that's fine.
You know, August was the indie announcement coming to PS5 as well.
Yeah, so I just want to end off, right, because this is kind of always where we wind up. And this is what I talked about a lot in the GCP Discord this week. I'm not losing my mind or, having my panties in a bunch because PlayStation is sending games to another platform. Mm-hmm. This discussion of he said this, they said that, people are losing their mind, people need to score points, they need, like, all that. I mean, I'm just going to be quite frank because I've said it before. That bullshit about the back and forth between the two tribes, I do not care about. I am also not in the business of sitting here prognosticating what's going to happen in 3 years or 5 years. And I wrote it this morning, and I'll say it again. What I do, because it is what is of interest to me, is I say what is, and then I do look back historically. I talked about in the GCP Discord that I do rearward looks, and I do a decomposition, right, an assessment of, like, how did we get to this point? What's happening 3 years from now or 5 years from now that people talk about because they need to feel like their platform is winning or the other platform is doing what the other platform did before, and they're just following them. All of that fanboyism and the thing, like, certain people are posting in the chat and certain people are like, those aren't things that I care about. So, your question, right, your central thesis of, well, people said this before and it was accusatory and it was a hit piece on Phil Spencer versus what people say now, that's just not part of my perspective.
Yeah, and forget about, like, Phil Spencer, because I've for a while now come to the conclusion that he should stop talking and have pointed out the things that I consider lies. That is all besides the point. What my larger concern is the people that didn't understand the multi-platform push. And again, I'm even including myself in the beginning, and I've come to view things differently. My question is, do they understand it now? And I do find it interesting that the deltas that people find continue to shift as Sony shifts.
So,
right?
So what I'll readily say, and what I will readily admit to, right, is I absolutely didn't put a huge amount of stock in people's commentary that Totoki's statements were indicative of a multi-platform push, right? And I still don't believe that, but I will say the things where that had credence, that have caught me off guard and surprised me, was I was surprised by Helldivers 2 going to Xbox. I still don't entirely understand it. I'm still waiting, right, again, in terms of doing an assessment of how that lands. I don't know how a paid game that's not going into Game Pass, that is multiplayer, is going to play out on Xbox. And when we do talk about what the commentary is between the communities and content creators, one of the things I don't understand is a claim that PlayStation is doing this because they're going to do bonga revenue concurrently with people who assert that, well, we didn't buy Final Fantasy because it was an old game and they subbed us and it came late. So So how is this different? And therefore, based on those people's commentary that this is why a thing happened and this is why it didn't chart on NPD, how are you concurrently saying that this other thing is going to turn out differently? Because as you say, right, their assertion is cause reasons. So like that's the type of stuff that I don't pay attention to, and that doesn't make any sense to me, right? What I will say that that my own assessments have gotten wrong or been misled on is, like I said, I didn't give weight to those Totoki statements. I was incorrect if I did predict that Helldivers 2. What I definitely said at the time was, and what I've always said, this is I think another thing that gets conflated. This notion of where I've said juice isn't worth the squeeze. Where I've predominantly said juice isn't worth the squeeze is the people who say, put your games day and date on PC. And what I've said is there is a cost associated to project management and software development when you are targeting multiple hardware platforms concurrently. There's increased complexity, there's increased risk, there's increased LOE. And what I've also said is that if you put your games day and date on PC, you are, yea, verily, then definitely stepping in the pond of where you aren't giving people a reason who are on PC to buy your console. Because if I get it at the same day and date, why would I buy the console? Particularly if it performs better and I get higher frames, higher resolution, better texture, etc. I would say the same thing concurrently for if you're going to do something like put your games day and date on Xbox. To me, that juice isn't necessarily worth the squeeze. Because again, those things aren't two different abstraction layers. There's increased LOE, there's increased cost, there's increased points of integration, there's increased testing that needs to happen. So again, you have a profit loss perspective that doesn't necessarily come out to me with definitive calculus that says that the juice is worth the squeeze.
So just so that I can, maybe we can get this to a more like productive place. Let me step out of the mud real quick and talk about
not productive right now. What you trying to say?
A different perspective on why I think this is happening, right? And in terms of
and by the way, you have 8 minutes.
Yes, I think this is a good thing because if we get all of that out of our systems about this one failed and this one's not like that one, then we can actually assess what's happening. And so, and my position has long been that until PlayStation does the same thing, no one's going to understand it because PlayStation is just a larger force in the market and more people like understand what they do when they say they're going to do it. That being said, is it not just possible that we are in a mature market and the number of people who make decisions on platform choices based on the exclusives are not as many as they used to be, and what we're looking at is digital ecosystem lock-in. So it is very difficult to get someone to change platforms in today's market when there are so many other options to switch platforms based on a particular exclusives. And even if we're talking about a network effect of exclusives, where a lot of the money is made in content and services are on the third-party games. And many of those have come to the conclusion that they need to be on as many platforms as possible if they're not the platform holder, right? So those deals to lock content away from other platforms are becoming more expensive and less, the juice is less worth the squeeze for more, in more cases than traditionally. So even if a PlayStation game does go to Xbox, no one's gonna leave their 25-year history of gaming on PlayStation to go to Xbox, and vice versa. And this is why we see Forza Horizon doing so well, even though it's a 4-year-old port, right? So because we had a COVID boom and then we're in the midst of a COVID correction, we don't, even though there's been revenue and growth, which I think is a lot to do with like inflationary price hikes and whatever, the number of people gaming, that is flat at best. And if you're going to grow, because Sony can't go to their shareholders and say, we did 32 billion this year, but next year we're going to do 29, right? That's just not a thing they can do. And so if that growth is not there, it's easy pickings to go to these other platforms, and you're not risking as much as you traditionally would have by putting your games in other places. Now, Xbox being in third place recognized the same thing. They just had to move on it earlier.
So I'm glad you brought that. Go ahead.
No, that's it. And that's why I think this is happening. But I don't think we could have that conversation, or I couldn't have it before, because PlayStation wasn't doing it, and everybody'd be like, well, they sold 75 million, and how come PlayStation still has exclusives? But now we can have the conversation.
So I think go ahead. I think there's part of this that's akin to the discussion around Apple, right, and the way they do things on hardware. I'm certain in some nether realm of the internet, there's Android versus iOS fanboys who are still going at it, even though that argument was pretty much put to rest like 10 years ago or so. And so there's this notion that like when Apple does a thing, then people pay attention to it, right? Then it becomes a real thing. When Apple does a foldable, then foldables will be a real thing. Even though Samsung is on their 7th, technically actually 8th iteration, right, of a foldable.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And I have my, can I show it on the camera? Yeah, and I have my Pixel Fold right here.
But they don't exist because Apple hasn't made them yet.
Right. So
shout out to the USB-C and Apple for making it mainstream.
Yes, thank goodness.
There you go.
Oh well, no, Courage was removing the headphone jack.
Jack. That's right.
so there's that. But I'm glad you brought out this discussion, because Matt Piscatella also recently made the same comment. And I disagree with him. And he knows way more than I do. So certainly, by all means, people should take deference to his perspective over mine. But it's still my right to disagree. When we talk about this topic, we do not talk about it in terms of the trifecta. We only talk about defection. And I get that, and I agree with you. We do not talk about customer acquisition and customer retention. And that to me is a problem. We are taking off the board 2 legs of the triangle. And I don't think the conversation is holistic and 360 degree when we do that. So there are new gamers coming into the market. There are not less people being born into the human population now. There are not fewer gamers coming into the market. We have data from both the ESA and GDC surveys, right? That show that gamers are coming into the market and still playing on console. Right? Those people, and let me also pair this with this whole platform-centric discussion that I had a temper tantrum about a few weeks ago. We talk about, and we're doing it again, but praise be to the people who make content. We talk about platforms every single day, every week, and not you guys, but like the greater podcast cosmos, every week, every episode. Consumers in general make a choice and a decision about platform at best once every 7 to 8 years. It is likely that they are making it even less frequently, and it's really about once a decade. And then you couple into that once I'm on the platform from the last generation, I have to have a huge reason to make a code switch to go to a different platform in the follow-on generation, right? Moment of inertia. If I'm on PlayStation, if I'm on Xbox, I probably don't leave and defect, right? Even cross-generationally, unless I'm given a big reason to. Now I'm going to say something that's probably going to make people very, very, very unhappy. You absolutely had defections from Xbox to PlayStation, and that's why the market share is so upside down at this point. And you can go back and do a rearward triage and figure out like why that happened, right? So my point is that PlayStation, in my mind, and Nintendo, right, still have to be in the business of covering down on 2 legs of the triangle. They still have to give people a reason. This was my disagreement with VG Flight School, right? If 70%-ish of the games that are available on all of the platforms, or at least Xbox and PlayStation, and your customer base on PlayStation and Xbox are spending 40% of their time playing games that for PlayStation aren't yours, the sum of the amount of time that they're not spending playing those games isn't 0, it's 60%, right? So they still have to have a reason to engage on your platform outside of where they're putting that time on black hole games. And that one time in the 7 to 8 years that the person walks into Best Buy or GameStop and makes a decision about platforms, particularly if they are a new user, right? And if you have a return customer that you're trying to make sure is a return customer, you have to give those people a reason to buy your platform. And this notion, and I also don't have a disagreement that that for a lot of people that the disappearance of exclusives would be more beneficial to a large part of the market. But the other reason I don't personally like that, or I don't personally want that, is because number one, I like hardware. Number two is once all games are available everywhere, then hardware becomes a commodity, and it doesn't really matter. And then you just have you just have value being squeegeed out of the sponge mop, right? For some people who are invested in buying hardware and buying software. But my big point about your question is that in my mind, people do go into stores and they do make choices and they do make decisions about when they buy platforms, and they don't do it that frequently. So you got one shot. You've got one shot every 7 to 8 years to have product differentiation that causes a person to make that game time decision, right? To call that audible. And what you really don't want is you really don't want them calling it audible, right? If you're on their platform, you want them to walk into a store and just buy that thing again. So that to me is the reason why exclusives still have value and why exclusives are still a product differentiator, and a reason why you would still continue to do them and invest that money. Because when you invest that money, what you get is you get a customer who's on your platform for the next 7 to 8 years, and all the revenue that individual generates, right, as a result of that. And that person's not on another platform, yea, verily, maybe engaging in your ecosystem because they're buying your software, but all of the revenue that's associated with that and all of the knock-on effect that's associated with that is not happening in your ecosystem. That's going somewhere else. So those are tangibles, and those are actual dollars that actually amount to something and mean something.
Yeah, but again, I think we have to come back to what percentage of the market is going to make that decision every 7 to 10 years, right? Like what percentage of the new customers are actually doing that? And then where we're talking about existing customers, what percentage of those customers are likely to switch platforms after being locked in? Now,
that's what I just said. Right, I just said that you're unlikely to get those people to defect, even cross-generationally.
Right. So again, if we look at the you said new gamers are coming on every year, but what percentage of those gamers are console gamers? Because according to Matt Piscatella, at least in North America, those guys are aging up every year on average, right?
My contention would be it doesn't matter. Like they're not zero. There's still people coming into a store and making a decision.
Right.
So in my mind, you don't just ignore them and you don't just make it agnostic and say, I'm going to make it a coin toss, which they're going to choose. I'm going to give them a reason to choose me over the next guy.
You're right, but you do also do the cost benefit analysis of how much money do I lose by the sort of limited approach to win someone 10 years from now versus how much that customer's lifetime value will be to me that I might get a decade from now. Right?
But I guess I don't track what you said. So if a human being walks into a store and they make a choice on platform, and it's unlikely that once they make that choice, they're even going to switch cross generationally, then you have a life cycle ownership cost, or at least I'll say ROI, right, benefit from that person coming in and choosing your platform, while the person who is on your platform is eventually going to age out. So isn't there, like we talked about this, like with Google and Apple and Microsoft in their effort to capture people, right? And their whole reason, like partially Xbox still exists and still continues to capture people at a young age so that they engage in your ecosystem and hopefully stick with you, right? So doesn't it make sense to go after customer acquisition and then double down on customer retention on your platform?
It does, but again, what we are talking about is the overall value of, I'm not saying there's no value and no reason and there will never be an exclusive again for the very reasons you are talking about, but the reason they are considering this and why they will, why Xbox considers it, why Xbox is doing it, while Sony is dipping the toe. I mean, they got kind of a whole ankle in right now, but whatever, we can talk about that later. The point is the The reason they are doing this is because there's more money to be made by the people that you can get today. Because another situation is if you get someone to get your platform just for one exclusive, and then and this is not negating what you said, because you agree that it's very difficult to get someone to change platforms, but I'm just adding this as to why I think we're seeing more of this. If I get you to buy my platform because of one exclusive, and then you spent $500 or $500, $600, $700 on the box plus the price of the game, and then you only play that game, and then you go back to buying your third-party games on your preferred platform, what was my cost of that user acquisition, and was it even worth it to me? And so just
so I understand, but they're buying the third-party games on your platform through your store, right?
I'm saying that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if I want to win a customer from another platform, and again, I know that you agree it's very difficult to get someone to change platforms. I'm just highlighting why, for people that don't understand or agree with that, right? Because we agree on that point. I'm only saying this as to illustrate that even if I get Kay Asante to buy my new Sega console because there's a new Sonic game that is only available there, but he mainly plays on PC, right?
So it'll cost me a $500 console, which costs you money. It'll cost you I will buy your game, which most likely won't make up for the $500 console that costs you money. The question becomes, after I'm done and I enjoy my game, and then I go back to my Xbox or my PlayStation where I always buy my games, how much was it worth? Was the juice worth the squeeze for you, for me to buy that console that costs you money and that one game that I probably won't buy another game from?
So for the company, isn't that all additive? Like at that point, I'm not making a trade-off. The person's not defecting, right? But even if I get them to then buy my console for $500 to $700,
which then means there's always a chance that you'll once again buy another game, because now the barrier of entry,
like you're not losing anything. Like that person wasn't a customer for your platform anyway, right? Really?
No, you are losing something, because there is a customer acquisition cost. You're going to make that back as with the lifetime revenue from that customer. But how much did it cost to get them to, like, you had to market to them, you had to make a box that you probably took a loss on, you had to pay for the game, you had to do all of that.
But
how long for that?
That is cost that is concurrent with the expenditure that you're making to acquire new customers and retain the customers that you have. Like, it's a calculus problem. It's like, so here, okay. So I guess this is where we're winding up, right? I get it. Like, and I don't hard disagree with you, but really the argument is really coming down to how much money am I investing for customer retention, for customer acquisition and customer retention, and is there an over under between that versus me going after almost exclusively software based customer acquisition, right?
Yes. That's the heart of what I'm getting at.
Yes, and my answer to that is, again, because I don't spend a lot of time like doing future predictions. I don't know. Like maybe it comes down one or the other. But what I'm saying is, what I see now is that you do have to, like this, like what month is this? July. Like tomorrow, a brand new gamer is going to walk into a store and make a choice on buying a box. And if all things are equal between two boxes, with the exception of exclusive content, then I think there's an argument that says that person, right, maybe buys the other box for the other content. This is also not a discussion of absolutes. I'm not saying that that's the only reason the person buys it, or that's the tiebreaker. Because quite honestly, when we go back to the beginning of this generation, I am well on record as saying 50 bajillion times why the value proposition of an Xbox Series S at its low cost, which at the time cost the exact same amount as a Nintendo Switch, but could play games at 1440p, coupled with the value add of Game Pass, why that didn't result in an overwhelming difference in how market share has gone this generation, I don't personally understand. I don't get it. At the beginning of the generation, I said for parents, many times have parents come into me saying, hey, little Johnny wants to get into gaming. What would you recommend? And I would often say, like, look, you could get them a PlayStation, right? It has this and that, but like, look, that kid's going to be coming to you every month asking you to buy games, and you're going to have to figure out ESRB ratings and what can they play and what should they play and what do their friends play and all that crap. I'm like, look, if you want a no-brainer, one-stop shopping solution, buy an Xbox Series S and get them Game Pass and tell them, F you, go off in the corner, play your games, don't bug me, don't bother me. So like, I don't have the answers to all that stuff, but I think what you're saying, to me, what you're saying is there's a difference in the possible outcome of a very complex financial problem that I can't tell you how it's going to wind up. But what I'm saying is that I think I can definitively say that consumers make choices based on product differentiation, and that exclusives are a point of product differentiation. And that might be the reason why people go buy that hardware. And that when all things are agnostic and there's no difference between the hardware platforms, then what you leave yourself subject to as a risk is a person's going to go into a store and they're going to do a coin toss, and you don't know that they're going to come down on your platform. And for some companies, that choice makes a difference, right, in their financial outlook and where they think they're heading. And that's why the companies are doing what they're doing.
And we can move on. This is my last point. The last point, and then we'll move on. Yes, please, last point, and then we'll move on. To that, I will say, the other aspect of this is where your friends are. And again, we see this. There are new mobile customers every day, right? And there's virtually almost no daylight between Android and iOS in terms of features and software, right? They're pretty much the same. Yes, Android's a little bit more open. I get it, but like for the average consumer.
Well, I'd say you also have to give note to the fact that Android sells plenty of like where their numbers come from is selling incredibly cheap low-end handsets where there's almost zero margin for those manufacturers. So I mean, the difference in the capabilities and features what you're talking about is like between an iPhone Pro versus.
Well, I'm not talking about features though. I'm talking about like software, right?
Sure, but I mean, software has capabilities based on the hardware that you put them on, and they're not as great on low-end handsets. But go ahead.
Yes, but the point that I'm making is a lot of times, it's going to come down to, well, what device does my family have? What device are my friends using, right? And that in and of itself is also a driver. So I am only wondering if, yes, they risk something in the scenario that you've painted, but I wonder if they say, well, they actually aren't risking that much because people are locked in and they're just going to go with who their friends recommend or who their family has, and that'll be enough to get growth of the new customers based on the word of mouth of the other customers. And so again, that exclusive content, while it will drive some people, and that's what timed exclusives will be for in certain cases, which both platforms still have in terms of Xbox and PlayStation, but whatever, that might be a technical reason or when something was greenlit, but we'll find out. Today is what today is. The point is, that's why I think we're seeing some of this. And I just love that we can have, I think we're having a more productive conversation now. I don't know if Logic feels that way versus when it was all about Xbox's bending the knee, because now we see that they're both doing it and we can talk about the real reasons why. And I appreciate that.
So are you saying, Everborn, after 2 hours of conversation, are you saying
that we did spend like 45 minutes on Marvel Snap, but anyway.
Well, okay, sure. So, but basically, what you're saying is because PlayStation did it.
Hold on, let me talk to this Xbot for 1 second. It sounds to me like all this coping is just for the simple reason.
You forgot the seething and molding, Aaron.
Components that finally understand. It is actually Everborn who finally understands. I guess but
there you go.
Let's not get messy with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last thing I'll say is, like, there's notions of credence to both of our arguments, right? In difference of perspective, right? It's all a matter of, when I throw 100 pennies out on the ground, how many of them are going to wind up in Everborn's cup versus my cup, right? No, I probably lost track of what I was saying, right? But like, so where it comes down to is, who. No, actually, I remember what I was going to say. But when you look at PlayStation, right? Isn't that the reason why PlayStation is doing things, right? PlayStation is taking a multi-vectored approach, right, with if I might say, a preponderance of weight on customer acquisition and customer retention, and then right in terms of like a diversification of spectrum and investment, right, and covering down on that risk, right. Xbox is taking an approach that puts an emphasis on customer acquisition from a software perspective based on wherever those people are. And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to an over under between, I guess, which of those wins. Like, I don't even know what that really matters. I think my primary thesis, as I've said in the Discord, right, every single time is, right, we need 3 vendors heavily invested in the console space, in my mind, right? Because that's a consumer base that generates, 50 billion upwards, 60 billion upwards of revenue, right? Because every time we see those numbers, they're conflated with the PC gaming space and the console space. So those consumers have value. Those consumers generate tens of billions of revenue. And so it doesn't really matter to me like which one is best or which one wins. What matters is that all 3 of them stay engaged. That Xbox has a reason to stick with it. PlayStation has a reason to stick with it. Nintendo has a reason to stick with it. I love all 3 vendors and playing on all 3 platforms. I love the different approaches that they each have and the different things that they put on offer. It's important to me that all 3 stick around. Right. I pushed back in the Discord this week when I won't call him out by name, but when a certain person said, Xbox can die on the vine and we'll be fine with PlayStation and Nintendo. I absolutely don't believe that. Right. With the value to me as a gamer.
You know what?
Yeah. Who said that? Who said
I don't want that. It was an aside. It was an aside. It wasn't like a primary thesis. Like somebody said that. So
that's ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen.
But and I'll say
we'll get you in the Discord for that. Whoever.
We coming for you.
And I'll say that's like not the only person who shouts that sentiment, right? There are people who do that for both PlayStation and people who do that for Xbox, right? PlayStation can go away; they don't give it or whatever.
Oh no, that's ridiculous too.
They're
necessary. Absolutely. Yeah.
My feeling is all 3 of them need to stick around. My feeling is that we get the most benefit when they compete,
when they're all
when it's hotly contested. Yes. If PlayStation fans are happy now because you're getting properties from the 6 marquee S-tier studios that I called out, understand that the reason you got them is because PlayStation was getting their lunch taken during the Xbox 360 PlayStation era, where many of those IPs generated from. Gran Turismo was around, right? But like, your Infamous, which hasn't come back, but your Uncharted's, your Last of Us, like all of those things came out of the era where PlayStation was getting their nose punched and had to do something to respond. If Xbox
you can say
fans,
2007, it's okay.
If Xbox fans are getting something out of out of Game Pass, knock 2017, out of Game Pass, and getting something out of, hey, when Forza Horizon 5 sells great on PlayStation, that's great for us because Microsoft takes that money and reinvests it right in game development. I don't know is necessarily true, but that's neither here nor there. If you feel that that's what you're getting, then that's great, right? We need all 3. Like it doesn't. It's not a matter of like Xbox winning, PlayStation winning, Nintendo winning.
Let me catch you
with that. And this is the final thing on that topic.
Okay.
And Kay, I've long said this to you, and even though I'm on this, may not seem like it, magnanimous hill about multi-platform is okay. I've said many times, I prefer it when they're fighting over user acquisition for us.
Sure.
Because when they are hostile towards each other, they've got to win us over and they've got to offer us things that they're not. And when they're also buddy, this is the kind of, I'm not going to call it collusion because it's not collusion, but I don't like them being friendly because then they're not fighting to give us more interesting things that'll win our attention over. So I agree with what you're saying, Logic, that I wish that they were still fighting each other in the way that we're used to. I'm only giving voice to trying to make sense of why we're seeing what I believe are grand pivots in this generation from everybody except for basically Nintendo. Except Nintendo's pivot was towards we're gonna now take all your money. But anyway, we can move.
Let's catch up because there has been some super chats. I think about 10 of them. So we're gonna catch up on those, and then we're gonna get to an abridged version because I'm still trying to get out of here in a reasonable amount of time. So let's do this real quick. All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, BT Maverick 707 with a $5 super chat. He says, now question, and the double standard for PlayStation, only putting games on Xbox because Xbox lost the console wars for these game lowercase j journalists. Hashtag game mess. Yes, clearly there seems to be a double standard that some people are pointing out.
Oh yeah, the new goalpost is that they're not doing it day and date, and now before they never do single player games. When a single player game comes, they'll be like they won't do it day and date, and then when they eventually at some point down the line do a day and date single player game, they'll be like, well, but Xbox did it first. But anyway, you can't pay attention to that. That's just the timeline talking.
And then JD Gamer, $5 super chat. He says, question: if it's about money, why wouldn't PlayStation put their own games on Xbox via Play Anywhere versus them going there anyway via Steam? 12 versus 30%. Who wants to answer that question? As far as percentages they get, if it's about money, because seemingly there'd be more money on that side versus the other. But I would say maybe because Steam has a lot more users, so it's easier to recoup costs without necessarily having to do all that porting. And Steam is PC gaming, so you're going there anyway, right?
Well,
so
I'll answer
at
JD's
the end of the
gamers.
day, that whole question regarding first-party games, it is there to foster a mentality where the audience are buying into your hardware. So a sale for a first-party game on your own hardware does not only equal, whatever revenue and profitability that goes back into the studio and those employees, but it's also a part of the budget that goes into the actual brand of the hardware itself. And those different exclusives, they together they make a bigger value for the whole ecosystem. So it's not really that easy, in my opinion, to just paint them the same way as any other publisher would to put on different platforms.
And I'll answer JD Gamer's question with a question, because we already know he has a preconceived answer to his own question. What I would look at if I were trying to analyze, really break down this question and find an answer to it, what I would look at is, why are certain publishers putting certain games in Play Anywhere, and why are certain publishers not doing Play Anywhere? Because they're not all doing Play Anywhere, right? And what does that mean? What is the causality behind that?
Moving on, we got the great MJ Dark with a $5 super chat. He says, now I know what Sony meant, whereby they said greatness awaits on PC and Switch too. Dude, that's a little salty. Anyway, also, hello, Gajima's the best. Switch 2 is the best place to play. Yeah, okay, sure. All right, yeah.
He said Switch is the best place to play. So let's not put words in the man's mouth.
Yes, he's right. Switch 1. That's right. Absolutely. Yes.
I'm very happy with the Switch 2. I just randomly would like to say that.
You just randomly would like to say that. So
it's the only console that I still play. Right? It's the only console I still play. It's
probably because you have to, right?
Because you have.
Because how else are you gonna play their games?
I'm not gonna lie. If the games were on PC, also there'd be no chance I'd even touch the Switch 2. But there you go. But I guess exclusives do work.
Love of God with a $5 super chat. He says, or she says, in the PlayStation Fire Team Roundtable, the lady was asked about the revenue, and she said, we plan on generating revenue by going off console. Really? So they're planning on generating revenue by just putting their games elsewhere beyond console. It's
a partial quote, right? Yes, she did say that.
That was one of the things. I don't think that's the only way she said that they were going to generate the revenue.
It's coupled with the other thing, right? Of we're going to put certain properties on certain platforms of certain periodicity in a planned, methodical way that doesn't endanger brand identity, right? And entrenchment with the console.
Also, part of going off console is adaptations, right? That is one of the things.
Like movies and TV shows and other things. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. JD Gamer comes back with a $10 super chat. He says the notion that these platform holders won't sell hardware once their games go to other platforms has already been disproven by both Xbox and PlayStation. Have market tested these notions where Xbox tries things first and then continues with a $5 super chat. Result is that by and large, PlayStation and Xbox fans will continue to consume on their respective platforms. In general, PlayStation is 3 years behind as PlayStation is more cautious. Do we disagree with that? I don't disagree.
They've proven that they can sell 35 million consoles in comparison to PlayStation's 80 million. It's a great disproof. and PlayStation puts value on, right? Whether we agree with it or not, PlayStation puts value on the number of users they have on their console. And yes, they have lower MAU. They have 135 million. That 135 million MAU generates $30 billion in revenue. The 500 million MAU that we constantly stand on for Xbox, which I pointed out, I think on this podcast or maybe another one, that those 500 million MAU were already on ATVI before the acquisition. So if you go back to their last earnings report before the acquisition, Activision already said that they had 500 million MAU. 170 million of those MAU, post acquisition are also on Minecraft. So those people generate roughly the same amount of revenue, right? 30 billion-ish. So, I mean, yes, it's been proven.
They still include Candy Crush as well, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, there's that. Yeah.
So yes. Like I've always said, I mean, in Everborn, I go back to our age-old battle, right? I've always said, and again, this is where I say, please don't conflate what I say with what PlayStation fans say. PlayStation fans say Xbox is getting out of hardware. I've never said that. I've said I expect hardware to become more of a boutique play that is very similar to the Microsoft Surface play, right? So
same thing I say. Yep.
Yeah, and I've said,
which I've always agreed with.
Yeah, and I've said it makes absolute strategic sense for them to be going down the path of working with their standard vendor partners that make their laptops for Windows and go that way. Like I am looking forward.
Path.
I love the concept of an Xbox Pro that is made by Alienware or made under the HP, under the HP Omen brand. Right, I will be in line at Best Buy waiting to buy that.
And I don't recommend HP Omen, but what I do, what I look forward to is a day where I can build my own Xbox with whatever hardware I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, I don't want that. I want a console. I ain't
that's
got
also
no time
available
to play these games.
That's also available to you, though. That's the thing, right? Yeah. It's not one or the other. It's both going to be available. And
I don't want a console. I want a console experience.
JD Gamer, $10 in the chat. I'm not even going to let the CEG continue to sit. Logic.
By the way, 8 minutes, not 45.
Logical.
Double checked.
I know, right? Oh yes. Logic has very logical arguments. Unfortunately, that's not how or why people generally buy things. The main reason why new PlayStation users choose PlayStation is because their friends and other guys in the store sold them on it.
Objection, opinionated.
He just said that Logic has alternative
being hostile to the witness.
That's crazy.
There you go. And then finally, the great Slow Backslap, who's been a member for 16 months, he says PlayStation single player games will be on Xbox, just timed. Can we all agree to that? I think so.
Sure, but I do agree. No, I agree with that. As I said to Paris earlier, I've been shocked so many times this generation that I'm not speaking anything definitively. We never know. It could be a random single player game, and they'll just say this one, but not the others is day and date. Lost Soul Aside is a single player game published by PlayStation, and it's going PC day and date, and so did Until Dawn. So, and Until, you could say Lost Soul Aside is a China Hero project. What was Until Dawn? Right? You just don't know what they're gonna do.
All the parameters just get washy with different games. That's right.
And I'll anchor point, like this is why I go back to you don't know what they're gonna do, but the reason they're doing things is for reasons. Right, it's not. Yes. It's not arbitrary. They're not rolling a 20-sided die
for reasons.
Right? Astrobot is still on the console, right? And even you can even extend that to third-party publishers, right? Because EA College Football is only on the console, which to a certain extent doesn't necessarily make sense because there's no reason why it can't go to PC. So I mean,
okay, we are now at a part where I would say we're gonna condense it a little bit because I think we should condense it a little bit. We have a little time.
Well, let's do this thing because we all got hard stuff.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going.
Debate.
We'll go right now.
This other thing in the Discord, I think is great.
But that's what I'm going right now.
Yes, and I love that we can have these conversations.
Absolutely. And by the way, TLDR, join the Discord. These are the kind of conversations we have all the time. This is basically how we discuss what we discuss. We get a little bit more slanderous in our discussions, but it's fun,
yes. And to all the Xbox fans that were next to me crying 2 years ago, Can you agree now that the multi-platform thing is not as bad?
You keep saying let's move on, but then you keep going back. There you go. Let's see what it is.
I had PlayStation fan slander. I just gave the Xbox fans some slander.
Let's move on.
Let's go.
You know, you guys also are now our third party. Like, he keeps doing this. Anyway.
All right.
So
here we go.
So let us start this thing the way we wanted to start this thing. Now, how did this happen? This happened because, again, we are on the Discord, right? And the Discord always brings forth amazing conversation. I'm taking folks off of our stage right now. I'm on the stage by myself. Here we go. So we are now going to put something together that we think is a little interesting, a little special, because we do this on the Discord. We've actually done it successfully on the Discord one time or two, and it was hilarious and awesome, and we're going to do it here for you as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the debate of debates. Okay, now, what am I talking about? We were in the Discord, and it came about that the question was asked, and it wasn't just this specific kind of date, but ultimately it landed on these dates. And by the way, if you feel that another date is better, or you feel that the folks here that are doing battle are not adjudicating things correctly, or you feel you could do better, you know where to find us. Join the Discord. But without further ado, what we want to have a conversation on, what we want to discuss, this is, and we're going to be doing it quite interestingly, just so you guys know. As we go along, we'll be putting forth the rules of the game. So just to quicken things along. But for those who know, if you've ever enjoyed the Oxford style back and forth, here's something for you. So let's get this thing started. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, joining us on this stage, we have the debate of all debates, and the question remains: what is the best year in gaming? Now, on the side of 2007, we have Aaron, who's joining us. Aaron, he's not even on the camera. Aaron, join us, please. There he is. Fantastic. Our debater. Aaron is here to basically explain and convince all of you that 2007 was the year that made us as gamers. And on the other side, we have 2017. And ladies and gentlemen, we have Game Logic on the side of 2017. Game Logic, you're off cam if you would mind, sir. And he wants to convince you, and he wants to make sure you understand that 2017 rather was the year that made us, and that no one should look any further. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's start this. I'll start this on the side, and a quick aside for those who are watching. Please put the questions in the chat. Please notate and find Mr. Everborn Saga, because what Mr. Everborn Saga will be, he will be our correspondent in the field. He'll be the gentleman that's keeping an eye on the chats. He'll be the one that's making sure all your questions are being fielded, and we will make sure that we bring them on the stage. And by the way, those who win, those who get pertinent questions that Mr. Everborn Saga will then feel worthy enough to be brought to the main stage, those folks will get themselves a very, very good prize. Now, what do I mean by that? And I apologize. This is for my Steam users only. Forgive me. This is for my Steam users only. But if you get a question that is worthy that Mr. Everborn Saga has to stop our proceedings and ask our combatants, you get to choose between Expedition 33, Dragon's Dogma 2, heck, even Cyberpunk 2077. Shout out to Dr. Dry Rub, because those are the games on offer today. If you get a question,
I do have one question about rules. This is going to happen in segments. How many questions per segment can I do? Because I don't want to jump in too much. I want to know how selective I got to be. So is it one question per segment that I get to choose?
You will have one question per segment, sir. One question. So be very, very, very particular in the question.
All right, I'm going to choose the best question. Don't be in here with no bull stuff.
And once again, shout out to the great question who just threw magic at us at the last minute and went, hey, give this to the community. So Dr. Dry Rub, once again, absolutely prolific. And yes, as he says, it is the God code, which means you actually own the thing for once. Shout out to Dr. Dry Rub. No Steam slander, but
Yeah.
yes, Steam slander. Anyway.
Let me emphasize, please, we're not doing this in Swedish. I know that everybody wanted it to be a fair battle, but since we're not doing it in Swedish, I have to prepare. So I've done some pre-written translations to try to make it sound as eloquent as I possibly can, because this is a very important thing, of course. So we should not.
So
try
while
to
you're speaking, sir.
way. Yes.
Was that a hedge?
2007.
Did he hedge just
No,
now?
No. He didn't hedge. Let's move forward. 2007. So you have the stage. You get to make your opening statement. Why? And you have 5 minutes to make your opening statement. Well, we'll make it 3 minutes because we're shortening it up a little bit. But the question is,
no, we're doing 5, sir.
Okay, fine. Do your 5 minutes. Do your 5. The question is, why, in your estimation, is 2007 the year of our Lord, the year that made us?
Listen, fellow citizens of the chat, moderators, hosts, and Chaosante Everborn, and of course my esteemed opponent, Game Logic. Thank you for being here today during this very critical moment in time. Today will be the day when we define why 2007 shall and will always be the best year in video games. And when we talk about the best year in video games, I think it's best if we first define what that actually means. Is it the volume of successful IPs? Is it the quality of those titles, or the innovation they brought? Or is it their lasting legacy? And I would agree that no single year in the history of video games has hit all those marks more powerfully and more enduringly than 2007. It was not just an amazing year. It was a turning point, and I would say a watershed moment in the history of our beloved medium. Let's just take a walk back in time. So, painted the picture, we have, of course, I got to hear what I'm saying, so I'm putting back my plug here. Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and the Nintendo Wii, all are active, performing well above their expectations, I might add, forming what we should be recognizing as the first generation of the modern gaming era. HD graphics came into the fold, online multiplayer became mainstream, and storytelling began to rival film and literature. I would say that before 2007, games were mostly linear storytelling, segmented storytelling and visually limited. But in 2007, the industry exploded with not only visually stunning, but also narratively deep, socially and emotionally connected experiences that creatively disrupted the status quo back in the days. We're talking about a lineup of titles that redefined genres, launched billion-dollar franchises, and pushed technical and creative boundaries further than ever before. And we can, of course, go through the list and look at critically acclaimed masterpieces or the launch of global franchises that stand strong to this day, but let's come back to that later. The truth is that 2017 was a phenomenal year. I'm not here to argue against the impact of great games like Breath of the Wild, Nier Automata, Fortnite, or Super Mario Odyssey. But the difference is this: 2017 polished the foundation laid by 2007. It was built upon it, but it did not invent it. It did not invent branching narratives, interconnected worlds, competitive online ecosystems, physics-based gameplay, and cinematic presentation. These things all trace their roots back to 2007. And that's the difference between a great year and the greatest year. And here's the most devastating point, which one I will get back to. There will never be another 2007. Because it wasn't just about the games. It was about an entire industry leaping forward all at once. The creative risks, the new IPs, the genre reinventions that turned out to be nothing else but a lightning in a bottle. Not a peak in a mountain range. 2007 was the summit itself. In closing, when we remember 2007, we don't just remember great games, we remember the very moment we realized that gaming was something bigger than we would have ever imagined. And it was probably at that moment where the true modern era of video games began. Thank you.
Well, all right. We here to play, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Now, to Game Logic, who purports that 2017, in fact, was the year of our Lord that made gaming. Your opening salvo, sir. The floor is yours.
Well, it's not really my argument. Mostly this point of disagreement comes about because I feel like when this topic comes up, that most of the 2007 pundits bring that up, but they don't acknowledge even the existence of 2017. And so, while I appreciate Aaron's courtroom theatrics, the sensationalism, the tie, I'm just a simple person, right? I've got the ball cap on, my Baldur's Gate 3 shirt, just a gamer. But, I hope that the court notices that that's what my opposing counsel is going to try to do today. He's going to try and bamboozle you. He's going to try and give you some Inquirer, tabloid, Jerry Springer, Geraldo Rivera, things to go after and chase after into the sun and come down on them with a firm belief. And he's going to argue his case largely on the basis of the games that came out. And I believe that those are important and those are the most important things to gamers. However, the gaming industry is larger than just the titles. There are dynamics that impact these titles. There are dynamics that impact the longevity of those titles and the things that stick with us. For people who were there at the dawn of the Xbox 360 era and remember the inflection point of how Xbox Live went from being a neat thing to really becoming the central social place and campfire around which we gathered, right, in terms of the social space as gamers, will recall that there are things like that that drive the industry and that have impact on the industry and stick with us, right? I can remember constantly going onto PlayStation Online and hearing this dialogue of how, the PlayStation Network was great because we don't pay for it. And I remember talking to all those dudes with the little earpiece that came with the PlayStation 3 with the little dangling wire, right? And hearing kind of how ghetto they all sounded. So people will find that term offensive, but it is a fact that there are other things that happened in the gaming industry in 2017 that went along with all the great games that came out that year. Breath of the Wild, Cuphead, Resident Evil 7, Super Hot VR, Hellblade, Super Mario Odyssey, Horizon Zero Dawn, Wolfenstein, The New Colossus, PUBG, and Fortnite. Fortnite didn't come out in 2017, but it peaked in 2017, and it entirely terraformed the landscape of the gaming industry. Persona 5, Forza Motorsport 7, Super Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Divinity, Original Sin 2, Undertale, Bayonetta, Call of Duty World War II. One of the best single-player campaigns in the Call of Duty franchise. So we had great games, but we also had other things that went on in the industry as well, and we'll talk about those this afternoon. I will give the floor back over to the chair.
Well, all right. Here we go. So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is the opening salvo from both our combatants, purporting that their year, of course, is the year. And by the way, you folks watching, you will make your final decision as to who wins this conversation. But we're moving on to round two now.
Before we do, let me just give you guys the question for this round.
Okay.
This is from Just Me.
And keep remember the person's name and all that, so we can talk to him later. Yes. Excellent.
So, what game or feature would you pick in each era? That's 2017 versus 2007. So the outstanding feature of that era or game of that era.
I'll start with 2017. Let's go with you first.
Well, I mean, this brings us to why we're even bothering having this conversation today, right? Like, there are other things that we could be doing. I got a hot lunch waiting for me upstairs. But I'll entertain the academic exercise. The Nintendo Switch released in 2017. I should just mic drop and walk off the screen at this point. Like, why are we even doing this? Why are we even arm wrestling? It was an incredible, momentous time in gaming. Nintendo combined their handheld market with console market. They came up with the first truly viable multi-mode console that people could play both in handheld mode and on screen, and that has obviously led to the advent of the Nintendo Switch 2, which is an even better gaming experience when projected on the large screen. Admittedly, the original Nintendo Switch had problems. I would often say, hey, like, putting that thing on a 4K screen just just tells you like how great it is not. But at 1080p, it was absolutely fine. And so again, this is a moment in time when we did a code switch. And it wasn't a small moment in time. It was a moment in time that spoke to apparently 150 million gamers knocking on the door and soon to take the crown from the heavily vaunted PlayStation 2. The thing people run around and wave their terrible towels about. Right? But here we are at the dawn.
The slander is beautiful and I'm here for it. 2007, sir. Game end of feature.
Yeah. I mean, I can always appreciate a good argument. And I'm happy to hear that whatever argument that you feel inclined to bring up for this debate would probably fit just fine with the foundation laid by its predecessors. With that said, of course, I would say that without the impact of 2007's real industry shifting mechanics, such as bringing the online multiplayer mainstream with Xbox Live and later, of course, PlayStation Plus, and the pivotal moments for specific games released that year with 2 world-breaking records with Halo 3, as well as later down that same year, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, established a clear foundation of what we would consider to be thankful for when we look at multiplayer online lobbies and live service games to this date. So I would call out those 2 games to have had the greatest impact when it comes to the service and the way that we play games today. More so, of course, there are creative risks that was taken back then, but we'll get back to that.
Okay. Good question. Just Mel, thank you so much for your question. And Everborn Saga, good pick out. All right. Keep that handy. We'll get back to you. Now,
keep the questions coming for the rounds, people.
That's
We're
right.
going to pick 1 question per round, so keep them coming, make them good. I'm watching all the comments.
And we're trying not to make this a very, very super long podcast. We'll do some consolidation. So guys, get ready. We're gonna do some consolidation. I'm gonna throw this at you at our combatants. We're gonna have to deal with it. So here we go. Round 2. Round 2 is about thematics, right? It's about basically the innovation, the genre, the games that impacted us, right? That kind of stuff, the legacy of the years, right? This is all within this round. Which year had more innovation and genre shaping for 2025, which is the year of our Lord today? Did that start in 2007 or 2017? I'll start 2007 first. Go.
Let's just open up with World of Warcraft, the Burning Crusade. This was an expansion that didn't just add, a lot of new content like the flying mounts and heroic dungeons. It also redefined what games as a service was back then and is to this day. Structured PvP, systems that shaped these types of games for decades to come, setting standards for games like Destiny and Final Fantasy XIV that still follows a lot of these templates. And Portal. Now we're getting into the titles here. Portal taught players everything through gameplay, delivering story through dry, dark humor, and a result that ended up unforgettable for players of all kinds. It reshaped puzzle games, I would say, forever in the way that we look at perspectives, and provided a fact that minimalism could be revolutionary when you look at this specific FPS space that was before that more in the shooter space or the sim space. So the puzzle was evolving with Portal, of course. And then we come back to Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, dropping and rewiring the whole genre. Not only high octane campaign, but its real innovation was probably the multiplayer. We're talking XPs, we're talking customizable loadouts, kill streaks, and it became the blueprint for what we considered as the modern shooter to this day. Assassin's Creed launching. We have huge crowds that reacted to the player. Stealth systems built into vertical movements, a design that pretty much defined the modern world the modern open world format that we see today in Horizon Zero Dawn, Ghost of Tsushima, and many more. And of course, Crysis. Crysis. While the original Far Cry hinted at an open-ended format, Crysis delivered it with full physics-driven environments, nanosuit-powered creativity, and open-ended sandbox levels. And it didn't just look better than everything. It looked like the future, but it also played better. And to close this off, my dear esteemed opponent Game Logic, 2017 might have had some heavy hitters in this camp, but the most important question is, can it run Crysis?
Well, all right. How about you, Game Logic? 2017, let's go.
So when we talk about innovation and really what pushed the industry forward in terms of games, right? There are probably several points of inflection that came out during this year. First of all, we have Horizon Zero Dawn, which introduced, we didn't know it at the time, but introduced one of the most significant game engines, right? In terms of industry innovation and industry presentation with the Decima engine. And while there aren't a ton of games that are based on it, the games that have been based on it have been some of the highest lauded games, right, in terms of presentation and in the overall creativity that has come out of the Death Stranding series and the Horizon Zero Dawn series in terms of their visual presentation. You obviously also had really the introduction of PUBG, but also the pivot of Fortnite, right, during this time period. And from that, we got many things that have really shaped the industry. They presented the opportunity really for Apex Legends. We saw a whole, toilet bowl flush of developers who have chased into the sun this notion of the battle royale. We have had the biggest franchises introduce this battle royale mode, including the vaunted Call of Duty that my esteemed opponent and colleague constantly comes back to. We had the introduction of, not the introduction, but we had the continuation of the Divinity series with the Divinity Original Sin 2, which really set the template for the shirt that I've been wearing for this debate, Baldur's Gate 3. And so I think there's a lot of things that happened to push innovation forward in this year, in 2017, right, in terms of the games that were put on offer.
Fantastic. Now, Mr. Everborn Saga, sir, do you have a question from our chat that adjudicates that speaks to this line of questioning, this round? Something related to innovation, something related to something that shaped the gaming landscape moving forward per year that might be pertinent here?
No, the best one I could come up with is one from Michael Santiago. And I don't know if it's pertinent, but I do think it's something that to think about here. And Michael Santiago says, one could argue that PUBG led to the downfall of the industry. PUBG led to Fortnite, and the chase for cash cow has shuttered the industry in a negative way. Kids don't buy games anymore because of it. Does anyone have anything to say to Michael Santiago? Not question, but
yeah, I absolutely do. Look,
I would like to say thank you, Michael. Oh, sorry. Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Santiago. You're bringing up a very fair point, and I think that you have already so eloquently put it out there, so I would like to hear what Game Logic thinks is the right defense.
I mean, look, for every one of these that was a strength, right, there's probably going to be things that you can tie to it as a negative impact, right? That's just the nature of the gaming industry and the nature of kind of all these discussions. What I will say is I could definitely kind of pin the tail on the donkey for titles that came out in 2007 as well, because after Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare came out, that was the point that I fell off of the Call of Duty series and stayed off of it for a decade, because the introduction of persistent stats and a KD that stuck with you really kind of drove the toxicity in online. Whereas I was a huge Xbox Live proponent and participant from the introduction of the Xbox 360 up until Call of Duty Modern Warfare. That was the point that I said, let's talk about all the things that go along with that, right? The person you go online with, if you enter into voice chat that has like the rap music or some other loud rock music, heavy metal playing in the background, kids yelling and screaming in the background, just an overall like bad place to be. And that has led to like very prevalent conventional behaviors online. That's why 99% of us turn chat off. That's why 99% of us will, as much as we can, like not play and party up with randos. That has driven a need for you to be tightly coupled to parties and other people who play the same game, so that you could have people that you could play with. Versus the advent of the Xbox Live era, or really the peak of the era at the introduction of the Xbox 360, where you could just go online. You had control of your lobbies, by the way. It's another big thing that Call of Duty Modern Warfare really toppled off the gate, which is that was the point that introduced us not being able to have control of our lobbies and not get rid of people who weren't vibing with the rest of the party in the group. So there's negative things that come out of I think each of these things. For every good that we get, there's going to be one or two small negatives. At the end of the day, the negative that you're pointing out is a negative that, while I also concur with it, is pertinent to a certain type of gamer. There's a certain type of gamer who has come into the fore and has gained access to games where they might not have had them before because of Fortnite being free to play and a lot of these free to play games. You have people who had barriers to entry right into gaming who have been able to onboard. And you have a lot of people that are spending time in those games. They're not spending time in those games because they don't like them, right? They're spending time in those games because there's a group of gamers who sees value in investing their time in a persistent online persona, and a thing that they get constant recurring benefit from that time invested, versus a linear game that they begin and then end and then put down and move on.
Okay. Yes. We're at the end of this round. Not well. Okay. I wouldn't say we're at the end of the round, but I think the back and forth here specifically, I will let the audience adjudicate that one, and we'll get back to who won that one. But before we move off of this round, because
would you like to add to the note?
Okay,
we're well the time here.
Yes,
Thank you.
were. Yes, because we were well above the time. You will get to answer the first question on this one, which is between 2007 rather, and 2017. Which year has games that aged better? Right? We have a 2017 games and we have 2027 games, right? We're now in 2025. We've had a chance to sit back and have a chance to really, really think through the games of our Lord from those various times. And yes, it is true that 2007 has aged longer than 2017. So because of that, that makes the back and forth, the comparison a bit fraught, but we're going there. 2007 versus 2017.
Are you talking about legacy, or what are we talking about?
Take it exactly as I am speaking it to you. Which year's games have aged better?
Age is a funny thing, isn't it? When you look at it, really though, I think that what we remember from our best experiences within video games, I would say that those things live longer than any new exciting IP coming out. And of course, if we talk about just the types of games that we see being replayed today, modded today, rebuilt today, remastered today, a lot of those memories came from the forefront of the generation that was blooming, or I would say booming, in 2007. So I think that the question, of course, not to be unfair, because, of course, there are games that came out in 2017 that is still being played today. But I would argue that games that and franchises that was established and founded, that laid a foundation for those types of games back in 2007, actually had a bigger impact on the modern gaming era. What we're walking into right now, as I recall that game logic is underlying here, is of course an expansion of the base that has already been made. And there is a reason why many of us want to go back to the things that were, because the creative risks that they took back then might not be as feasible today in the eyes of the suits. But I'm sure that Game Logic has a good argument for why the replayabilities and the longevity of these games that are coming out right now would be better for the consumer in the end.
Logic?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of longevity and what games have aged well and kind of stood the test of time, particularly from 2017, and I would also include in that like things that we kind of hold in reverence, and things that people keep going back to. Cuphead, right, was really a moment in time that really presented this notion. It was really the peak of the notion that the indie could really compete on production value and innovative gameplay toe-to-toe with big AAA games. I mean, we've certainly had indies before, and there's certainly indies that that are thought of as good games, but Cuphead really kind of pierced the veil of those games being looked at, again, toe-to-toe, shoulder-to-shoulder with other games, right, of the time. People still look at Resident Evil 7 as an inflection point, right, and go back to that as a game that kind of focused much more on kind of the psychological horror aspect of it than the monster, right, universal, monster series kind of it all of versus the zombies and the monster types. It was really more so rooted in that kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre psychological type of horror approach. You had Super Mario Odyssey, which has given us DK Bonanza really at its root. But still, there are things that Super Mario Odyssey do well that people still like to go back to. And again, I go back to PUBG, Fortnite. I'll call out Wolfenstein: The New Colossus as a first-person shooter that people still like to go back to, that I still find of value. People are still playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So we have a ton of games that came out during that year that have stood the test of time that people still like to go back to.
Okay. Now, Mr. Everborn Saga, in the chat, any questions that are worth mentioning that you think that these folks should be tackling? All right. Well, we'll leave you we'll leave the chat to update, folks. Get something in there that Everborn Saga can look at. I have put it in the chat right now. There is a poll going, and right now it's neck and neck, 50%. 2017 versus 2007. It is neck and neck. Oh boy, you gotta love it. Okay, next round's a bit of a crossfire. We're heading to it. We're rushing through it because I don't want to go too long, but I also don't want us to miss that opportunity. Okay, so I'm gonna throw some questions at you guys, and in so doing, this will bring about the back and forth that I want us to get to.
Wait, I got one. I found one. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's because I lost it when it came up. This one is from
Okay.
Big Bad Mo.
Okay.
Being in the year 2025, what game can you suggest be played right now from 2007 that would hold up, and 2017 for a person who missed out on those games?
Wow,
so
what a great
2025, what game from both of those eras would you suggest someone play today in the year of our Lord 2025?
You know what? 2007. You first. Go.
Well, hold on. No. We always.
I mean, we haven't even
2007
walked through the list. Yeah.
Okay. So you're right. You're right. I apologize.
Fair, and I apologize, Logic, but I just want to keep things fair and above board.
True. 2017 first. Yes, please.
It's a tough question to answer. And I'm going to throw out a few things here, but you when I get done, you can definitely adjudicate, right, that there's one that I have to pick. So I'd say number one, you have The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, which was, to me, an inflection point in incorporating Western design into the Zelda series, and then that game has been refreshed for people on Nintendo Switch 2. So I think that's a great thing, right, to go after. I personally, again, I'm a huge first-person shooter fan. I love Wolfenstein: The New Colossus. So you're kind of coming in after the reboot, the reboot of the Wolfenstein series. You bring in a lot of classic first-person shooter mechanics. That game is available on multiple platforms, including Nintendo Switch. I love playing it right in different places. And if you really want to get back to like the grounded roots of first-person shooter design, I feel like Wolfenstein: The New Colossus is a great way. And then the last one I'll mention is Nier Automata. It's an undersung title. It's a title that doesn't often get raised up into the conversation of games of that ilk. But it is a game that had a significant impact on the landscape and still kind of shapes the design of those games moving forward. And so that would be a good one also.
2007.
I think it's a very easy question to answer, of course, with all the games that came out in 2007. It depends on who you are as a player and a consumer, and I would rather recommend either Rock Band, of course, super important, first released in 2007. We can talk about BioShock, extremely important and influential game. Super Mario Galaxy. It really depends on who you are as a player. Portal again, if you want to go back to that. Or if you haven't, then of course, Mass Effect, releasing in 2007. There are too many games from 2007 that are worth playing. And my only recommendation would be if you would to go back and play the original version or one of the plenty of remasters that has been coming out since, of course, the huge impact and importance of this year.
Excellent. Great question. Big Mad Mo, that is an excellent question. I really appreciate that. Okay, so let us move forward, because before we get, because I do also want an opportunity for our combatants to have their reasons and their opening or closing salvo, rather, because I don't want us to belabor the point too much, because we're expediting this whole process a bit. But okay, so let's throw some back and forth questions into the mix here, right? And I saw somebody in the chat ask the question, so I'm gonna, and I didn't really get the person's name, but I'll take it from there anyway. First person shooters, which one's the best? In what year could we say first person shooters crystallized their essence for gamers? 2017 versus 2007. And I know that's open-ended because it depends on the console or the platform or whatever, but just in general, as a gamer, on offer between 2017 and 2007, the first person shooter genre, which was more ripe? And since the last question was answered by 2017, I will let 2007 start this one.
Since the obvious answer to this question is 2007, with again record-breaking Halo 3 ending up launching Forge along one of the greatest comebacks of our time, when Master Chief finally finished the fight against the Covenant, and of course, again, Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare. So I think the answer to that question is not only the obvious choice because of the impact of those games, and later also, of course, the physics-based open world ended game design in Crysis. I would rather just, add a little bit of extra salt to that and show the plethora of first-person shooters or first-person games that actually came out, how BioShock also proved that shooters could tell a more morally complex and philosophical story without sacrificing gameplay. And if we look at 2017 and the models of battle passes and live service games that has been coming out and fostering the dopamine rush into every 30th second of our time, I would like to remember all the real gamers of one important line of who decides to do what and when in our games. And that is the line, a man chooses, a slave obeys. And I'm going to end it there.
Wow. Okay. Logic, sir.
So I think one of the things you have to consider is when it came time for the advent of live service games to really break the mold, right? To really bust the gaming industry wide open, to really consume so much of most people's times. It wasn't MOBAs. It wasn't RTSs. Fall Guys is a nice game, but it wasn't platformerish, activity-based type of stuff. It was the first-person shooter. And I would even say it even extends beyond that, because with the advent of Fortnite, you really had a lot more credence being given to the notion of the third-person shooter, which had never really been as big of a thing at scale as it has become. So I know we said first-person shooter, but I really have to insist that you really kind of pull in the notion of shooters right into that, because third-person shooters are heavily based on the originating mechanics of first-person, and they've now become a thing, right? Whereas before, there used to be a large argument that, I'm not going to play that shooter because it's in third person. And so when we talk about like what year was more impactful to the notion of the first-person shooter, I would just point to is like, yay, verily, Call of Duty Modern Warfare was a thing, but now we literally have the large bulk of the gaming market spending their time and playing first-person shooters, third-person shooters. So that, to me, really, really kind of drives it.
Aaron, do you have a retort, or do you agree?
I mean, I'm still waiting for 2017 to say thank you.
Oh, that is all right. All right. Now, well, I will continue with the next question, but just so we know, so you understand what is happening here, ladies and gentlemen, in the chat, you have a question: 2007 versus 2017. What year was more beneficial? Now, when we put that poll up, it was neck and neck. But as these gentlemen have been going back and forth and doing their battle, the numbers are seeming to wean and wave a little bit here and there. And right now, it is 59% to 41 in favor of 2007. So, the next question. It can be said that 2007 gave us some fundamental IPs. What did 2017 create that can last for 10 plus years? And I will start with 2017.
So I want to first of all dissuade us of the notion that 2007 introduced things that stick with us, right?
Okay.
When I go back to 2007, let's look at the number of things that have kind of fallen off the vine. BioShock, Mass Effect. Mass Effect was a thing of its time, and then it is part and parcel of the decline of BioWare. Rock Band was a thing of its time, and I used to love going to Rock Band parties, Guitar Hero parties. No longer a thing. So there are these things that happen in moments. God of War 2, right, was a thing that was then retired and shuffled off to its mortal coil in favor of a new design and a new approach to that game, based heavily on the IP. But what they realized was like that thing wouldn't work, right? Carrying us into the future. Halo 3 was a thing of its time, but Halo Infinite, as we talked about at the beginning of this episode, is a thing that is significantly different and has progressed beyond that. Crysis, while a thing of 2007, was a thing that hardly anyone could play. And that franchise has come and now gone and doesn't really have a crisis-oriented like progenitor that continues on. It is embedded in the Far Cry series, which is significantly different, right, than the tapestry and makeup of Crysis. So I think the notion that 2007 introduced things that have stuck with us is really not true. So many of the things that came out then are things that have been retired. The Dirt series, Command and Conquer, right? So we've moved on. In its place, right? Like I said, we have Fortnite, we have Mario Kart. These things that have come to the fore and consume a lot of people's time and introduce these franchises that are almost ubiquitous, that so many people invest their time and their space in.
All right. 2007, sir. What is your retort?
I mean, when we talk about the replayability and the legacy of these titles, I'm glad to hear that my esteemed opponent here has such a fond memory of this specific year, name dropping each and every one of them. and still missing, 60-70% more of the masterpieces that got establishing the foundations back then.
Right.
But there we have it. I would say that 2007 didn't just deliver great games, it delivered the ecosystems. So in the spirit, these weren't titles that you beat and shelved. These were built to last, and nearly 2 decades later, many still are. So to your point, where the gameplay loop that players didn't just return to, but they started to live inside within, was also founded during this specific year. With the launch, of course, of again, Call of Duty 4 and Halo 3 and games like that. And I would say that Fortnite, PUBG, and Apex Legends, among many, are, alongside, of course, Warzone and the regularly Call of Duty drop every year, just a part of the equation here. And I'm glad that you mentioned Rock Band, because it truly changed the living room. You're absolutely right. And it was something that was maybe well before its time. And it turned social gaming into a music festival once more. The only thing that did that before that was, of course, SingStar. People came back into the living room, not just to play, but to master tracks, to build bands, and turn a game night into more of a performance. And here's the thing about Mass Effect that I need you to understand. Mass Effect brought something rare to RPGs: persistence. Your choices mattered, not just in the moment, but across an entire trilogy. People replayed it to this day to see new outcomes, new relationships, and entirely different character arcs. And few games, I would argue, since have matched that level of narrative depth and replay value. But we know they would like to try. These games didn't just stand the test of time. In my mind, they define what that test even is, which is why we come back to 2007. They are still talked about. They are still played, still modded or speedrun and streamed. Again, legacy isn't just about nostalgia. It's about lasting relevance in our minds, in our talking points, in our podcasts episodes. So when the dust settles, ask yourself this, Game Logic and dear citizens of the chat: which of these games that I just mentioned are still being fondly remembered in 2025? I would say all of them, because 2007 never really left. And I would say that is what true legacy actually is.
You have a retort, Game Logic? Okay.
Yeah, no, we can go on.
Oh,
I do have a question. I do have a question. Also from Just Mel. I know he did another one. He did the first one, but this is a good one. Yep. With each view from 2007 and 2017, how do you see 2027 from each perspective?
That's an interesting one. Okay. Let's start with 2017.
That's admittedly hard to see, and I don't know I can pull that together in a 60-second time frame. I think
TikTok.
I mean, I think what we'll continue to see is a raising of the bar in what people want from single player games, right? In terms of production quality and weaving a narrative. I think, like, we look at Expedition 33 this year, and we tunnel back to how that came out of 2017, right? And I will admit, even back to 2007, right? In terms of your choices matter, your choices mattering, but also the manner in which the narrative was woven. I think that's gonna continue to kind of skyrocket in terms of what people want, and to a point where, when you're below that bar, that's going to be a thing that's difficult, right, for people to approach and on board to, in terms of like finding it interesting. I also think, from 2017, again, that advent of the high production value, extremely engaging indie, right, in Cuphead, I think that's a thing that we're going to continue to see going into 2027. And right, having this healthy tension in the industry that you don't need $300 million budget games, right? Cuphead kind of proves that, and I think that's going to be another one of the trends that we see. And the third trend that I think we'll continue to see is from 2017. Again, I go back to the PUBG, Fortnite, right, and how that paved the way for Apex Legends and other shooters to come into the space. I think, a lot of air gets sucked up, right, by Call of Duty, with Warzone, because we know that that's the big primary driver. I don't think you're going to continue to see things like you saw from 2007 with Rock Band, because as we saw, that lived its time and then it expired. And when there was an attempt to bring it back, people went back to it for nostalgia and then they quickly dropped off. So I think these trends from 2017 are going to be the ones that we see right in prevalence in 2027. And we can see that those things had weight and are continuing today, and they'll continue to propagate right into 2 years from now.
2007. Sorry, go.
First of all, I'm happy to hear the mind share that Rock Band seems to have with you, Game Logic, especially when you're continuing to bring up Fortnite, which owner and developer Epic, as we all know, bought Harmonix, the developers behind Rock Band, to implement more of Harmonix skill sets within Fortnite itself. So thank you. With that said, I do agree with my esteemed opponents over here regarding the difficulty of looking forward into 2027. I do believe that there is a reason behind the market forces, behind the AAA production budgets blowing up, being out of proportion, and how the quote-unquote little guy is gaining more and more foothold, but unfortunately not in the way that they might need. So if there has ever been a time where the market is harder to predict and how 2 years from now will look within this specific space, I would say that also paints even more of a clear picture on why 2007 was so extremely powerful when we look back at it and what actually happened during that time. Because if we were to compare that to 2025, 2026, and 2027, I don't even think that we would be able to talk in this sense of the market, because the stats that we've been seeing regarding games that uphold over 50% of players' playtime would not be the same. Instead, we would have been seeing a plethora of different creative risks taken by the big companies and not only the little guy. And I think that is a huge part of why we will continue to see this trend, the same trend that has been set ever since 2017, unfortunately. But we still don't know. So let's just hope for the best.
Okay, so and everyone, please interject if there's another great question. This was a great question, but I will say this being that 2007 to 2017 is an easier time frame to basically put an eye on because it's already happened, and 2017 to 2027 is harder to do because we haven't gotten there yet. So it might be seen as a little unfair to the question. So this one will be a little bit sided as well. So here we go. Which year did more to empower indie developers and alternative voices in gaming? I will let 2007 start this one.
I think it is pretty obvious that the launch of Xbox Live Arcade and the boom of indie games, as well as the documentaries around indie games coming out on that platform during those years, was of course impactful and paved the way for a lot of upcoming games as well. And I also think that a lot of the creative risks that were taken back then inspired upcoming video game developers to do new things. So if we compare 2017 and the tool sets and the engines and the opportunities that was brought into the fold back in 2007 through things like Xbox Live and later PlayStation Network, I would still say that there has never been a better time to play video games than it is today. And we have all 2007 to thank for that.
2017, same question to you. What year in your estimation, and you know, I want a healthy conversation here. So if you believe it's 2017, why do you think it's better than 2007? And if it's not, you know, give us your explanation. Why do you think, what year rather, did more to empower indie developers and alternative voices in gaming?
Well, we are now at my second mic drop moment of this debate, and why I question we're even having it. Because there has been no greater impact on the landscape for indie developers than the advent of Game Pass. Why are we even here? Game Pass has enabled indie developers to de-risk themselves from the worry of my inability to make payroll on the next Friday. It has given indie developers the opportunity to get a bag for their development efforts and introduce their games to an audience that is hungry for them, in stark contrast to the leaving of the stage of Valve from the notion of publishing governance on the Steam storefront. Because about this time was also the time that Steam said, it's not our job to tell gamers what games they can play or what games publishers can publish. And they just exited the stage. And after that point, you had this huge deluge of games coming onto the Steam storefront that, until they introduced kind of the Netflix-like attenuation and queue, just created a problem for gamers where, like, I don't even go to Steam for discovery anymore. The only reason to go to Steam is because you already know which it is that you want to buy. Where's the crown for discovery right now? It's on Game Pass. It's in that Xbox app. It's where you can go and just kind of surf leisurely and casually to find things that might appeal to you. There is absolutely no question whatsoever, from either a creative standpoint or a financial standpoint, what has had the biggest impact to indie gamers? Absolutely Game Pass. Without question. These are the facts of the case, and they're irrefutable.
Go.
Sorry.
2007, please go. Go ahead. Your
is the Game Pass commercial over? I'm sorry. I was distracted for a moment there. So, of course, Game Pass, just as all these services that are helping smaller developers to get their games out there, are wonderful. I'm just having a hard time to hear if there was any thank you 2007 in that commercial. So far, I haven't really heard any. And with that said, I do think that I've said my piece.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the bottom of it. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, we are at the closing statements. This is their final chance, ladies and gentlemen, their final chance to change the fates here. Because at the end of the day, we're going to read the numbers as to who we think won this out. We will start with 2007. Closing statements. The floor is yours, sir.
Friends, we have truly had some great years this generation. Peaking, I would say, in 2023. A year that stands out with, and listen closely, 13 games that got an average above 90 on Metacritic, compared to 2017's 6. In 2007, history was made when 17, that's not 1, that's not 2, that's not 3, that's not 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It's 17 games, standalone titles that received above 90 on Metacritic. In other words, as my opponent likes to say, the numbers speaks for themselves. When people say, I do miss how games used to be, whether they realize it or not, they're actually talking about 2007. It was the year where the industry wasn't just alive. It was alive with risk. Studios weren't chasing formulas, they were breaking formulas. There was a sense that anything was possible. Every major release could surprise you, move you, or redefine what a game even was. Developers were not just following trends, they were setting them, often by throwing out the rulebook completely. And I would say that it was a rare point in time where creativity, technology, and ambition were all peaking at once. Consoles were powerful enough to dream big, but not so expensive to develop for that studios played it safe. Publishers gave teams room to experiment, and the results weren't just good, they were transformational. The risks that were taking that year laid a foundation, as I've been saying, for the next decade and the decade after that of design, storytelling, and multiplayer interaction. You didn't just play those games. You felt like you were watching the medium evolve in real time. Let me say that again. You didn't just play those games. You felt like you were watching your beloved medium evolve and grow up in real time. It wasn't about sequels or franchises or monetization. It was about possibility. And that's what it's all about, possibility. We'll never get back that in the same way. Today's landscape is more polished, more connected, more technically advanced, sure, but also more calculated, more reactive. Games are safer now, bigger, sure, but less bold. That magic window from 2007, when developers made wild choices because they could, when nothing felt overly designed by committee, and when players still felt surprised, that window has closed. 2007 gave us a glimpse of what games could be when imagination was the driver and the market did not punish failure as harshly as it does now. It gave us soul, unpredictability, and a kind of creative bravery that we rarely see anymore. So when we say, I wish games could feel like they used to, we're not being nostalgic. We're remembering a moment when the industry dared to dream, and we all got to play the result. That's why 2007 isn't just a great year for video games. I would say that 2007 is the year we all are still chasing. Thank you.
All right. 2017. The floor is yours, sir.
So I advised you all at the start of the debate that my opposing counsel would try for a lot of courtroom theatrics, a lot of misleading, a lot of attempts to kind of paint this picture that things were so rosy in 2007. Doesn't really talk about the bad things we got in 2007. Gives credence to a lot of non-sequelitis, and you may have seen my face scrunch up, kind of in disbelief at 2007. Again, Call of Duty, Legend of Zelda, Grand Theft Auto, Rock Band. Rock Band was an original IP. They had prototyped that under the Guitar Hero series. Like, I don't think this was a year of innovation. This is when people doubled down on sequelitis. And we talked about how sick that made us in the years intervening until we really got things on the landscape that really started to kind of change the formula. Unfortunately, over the course of this debate, because we've been time compressed, I didn't get a chance to really introduce the additional things about 2017 that made it one of the best years in gaming. And it wasn't just about solely the games. As I mentioned, you had the Nintendo Switch. We had the Xbox One X, the Xbox One Scorpio, the true delivery on the promise of this utopia of backwards compatibility. And we saw Microsoft, we saw Xbox investing heavily and then refining and polishing the games that we had come to love being delivered to us on the Xbox One X. And that can't be ignored. We had Avalanche Software being purchased by Warner Brothers, which beget Hogwarts Legacy, one of the best-selling games and one of the few games to take the crown of best-selling game away from either a GTA franchise game or a Call of Duty franchise game. When you talk about risk and you talk about great things that come out of taking risks and leaping, this was the year that we also had Square Enix depart from its hold on IO Interactive. And since then, the Hitman series has gone on to even greater accolades, to the point where it has become an entire ecosystem and platform in and of itself that gamers are investing heavy time in. And like I said, you had Game Pass, which not solely beget Game Pass, right? And the things that we've gotten into Game Pass, it beget the studio acquisitions that then followed, because if you're going to have a subscription service, you have to have your own studios to feed that service. Literally everything that we have on Xbox is as a result of things that occurred in 2017 and the big wind up, right? The Rolling Thunder campaign that Xbox is so famous for, in giving us all of the consumer facing, gamer centric things that we have gotten from Xbox in the time intervening. It has led to the advent of Hi-Fi Rush. It put a warm blanket of protection around Double Fine Studios so that they could continue to do the Psychonauts series, so that they could deliver to us Keeper this year, so that Call of Duty could eventually realize the peak of its potential by being a property that is now in Game Pass and is supported on the cloud and is heading towards a Nintendo Switch, delivering on this promise of building out of communities of Xbox. And nothing has de-risked the landscape more than Game Pass. It has created a force, a wedge that allows people not only to thrive on indies in Game Pass, but has also activated and been a knock-on effect to the rest of the industry as people put those indie games on offer outside of the service as well. And sometimes with a PlayStation-centric first attempt, but it's delivering other things to PlayStation, as well as to the other platforms. I rest my case.
Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, there we have it. Again, a limited format because we're running really late at this point. But here we are. We have two questions I need to ask the public, and you will help us determine what's what. One of those questions is already out, and you are already answering it, which is 2007 versus 2017. What year was more beneficial in gaming, in your opinion? Now, Game Logic and Aaron have both laid the case out very well, in my opinion, and it's up to you to decide which one of them made the case. And honestly, I think at this point, it is what it is. Let's read it out. So, 2007 versus 2017, which year was more beneficial in gaming? We have 62% to 38%. And you all decided that 2007 was the year. So there's that. Congratulations, 2007. But I have another question, because we're not done yet. And I need you all to answer this question quickly before we're done here. All right? Because I feel like beyond 2000, yeah, I know. Beyond 2007 versus 2017, we have another very important question that I think might present different answers. And that is Aaron versus Logic. Who was more convincing in that argument? Because I don't think that direct translation happened here. So please, in the chat, Aaron versus Logic, ladies and gentlemen, who was more convincing in their argument? And before we get out of here, Mr. Everborn Saga, any last question from our esteemed chat that we want to highlight, and as such, highlight and bring to the stage to have answered? Everborn,
I'm working on that. Just give me a moment.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, in the chat, if you have an opportunity to, please, make your opinion known.
A lot of people are asking questions without question marks, so I gotta.
Oh, so it's hard to. Yeah, I understand. And of course, before we get to the end of this, thank you guys so much for watching us and all of this. This kind of stuff is what we do in our Discord from time to time. We do it pretty often. We take it really stupidly seriously, and we appreciate y'all being here and enjoying the fun with us. If you like it, maybe join our Discord. Maybe if you want to be a part of this conversation, maybe join our Discord and take part and possibly listen in. If you are not part of our Discord and you just happen to catch this, in the comments, please let us know how we did. Should we do more of these? Give us some creative criticism, and we want to make this better because we feel like we love these kind of conversations, and we appreciate y'all who definitely want to take part. So,
all right,
to answer that final question,
I got nothing. Okay.
To answer the final question, Aaron versus Game Logic, who made the point best? Interestingly enough, Aaron. Well, it's moving and shaking right now, so I don't want to lock it down, but it's moving and shaking right now. It is. Not everybody has voted, but it looks like Aaron, sir, you should feel proud of yourself. 62% of our viewers right now say you made the case pretty righteously,
and not even in Swedish. Look at that.
38% say Logic put it down. So there we have it. So, ladies and gentlemen,
I came in. I was so nervous. Listen,
take a bow,
sir. Next time we're gonna do this in Swedish. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, and we'll put like an AI translator so that every time we it'll
yeah, I will definitely concede to
a lot.
Yeah, and I'll definitely concede to Aaron waging the better argument. I missed a key thing in my closing statement where I had a note to poke holes in the basing the argument on the strength of Metacritic, since there's so much of a bow wave of sentiment against Metacritic, and I just missed that note as I was talking. So yeah, no, good argument, good discussion.
I love to have these conversations with you as well. And the funny thing about this, I've been trying to write down my thoughts and having them translated for a couple of days actually, because we had a structure that we were trying to do, and it was as late as very late yesterday, where me and a couple of guys in the Discord just sat, and I realized that actually, wildly enough, this crazy metric, like 17 games above 90 on Metacritic.
That is wild, bro. That's wild.
Yes, it's crazy. Yeah. So I got to use this one because he's all about the numbers.
That's it. Wow. Okay. Yes. And by the way, Mr. Wolf, absolutely true. Join the Discord. Ours is a little more colorful. Just be aware. A little more colorful. But yes, this is what we do there. Everborn, sir, what are your opinions here? What did you think? How did the proceedings go for you in your estimation?
I think it went well. I thought I was going to have to do some more fact checking. I thought we were going to get some links in the chat, or we were going to get some links that we had to check up. So I didn't get to do that. We have to we need to standardize the questions too, because if you put like questions and then dash and then your questions, it is easier to see.
Harder to see.
But I will not weigh in on 2007 versus 17 because it's not my place. I don't want anybody to know what everyone thinks. Maybe we can talk about that in the Discord.
Absolutely.
I was definitely more prepared for my debate with Everborn than I was for my debate with Aaron.
Well, that is because I've been giving you this debate. We've been doing this debate for like 2 years now. So.
But yes,
you were ready for the Herman Holt statement. He's like, I know that's one of his go-to tricks. I'm ready for him.
That's But yes, ladies and gentlemen, before we get out of here, once again, shout out to the great Paris Lily for joining us. Loves to, whenever he jumps in, he always makes the conversation better. I love it. He brings the slander, both for Sonic and otherwise, and we're here for it. Thank you, Paris, for being here as you are. Thanks to the great Game Logic, sir. Every time you're on the show, you make the show better. Thank you so much for any time you're able to be here. Thank you so much. Tell the people where else they can keep up with all your ongoings while your opponent takes off his tie and gets a little more comfortable.
If anybody's interested, you can check in on the Enough to Keep Gaming. We should think about changing the title. Enough to Keep Going podcast over on the E2KG network. channel on YouTube on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. So it is very different from a lot of other podcast formats and from the topics that we put in the agenda. So it is definitely not for everyone. So I'm actually not recommending everyone to go by and see it. But if you are looking for something that's a little different, you could certainly feel free to saunter by and test drive it.
Excellent. Now, Aaron, sir, also a great member of our Discord. A lot of content, but Swedish for those who can read it and understand it. Tell the people where they can keep up with your ongoings.
Again, so in Swedish, of course, öppnavärldar.se, öppnavardar.se in Swedish. But you will find me at Spoiler Spaces on Twitter. I will share my thoughts. I usually, if I review something, I usually put out a thread on something when the embargo lifts. So if you think that you would get some help by learning about my opinions on whatever upcoming games, then you might be able to follow me on at Spoiler Spaces. Other than that, just keep following these guys. Just keep hanging out with these guys in the Discord, and you might, be able to meet me there as well. Yeah, I mean, if I did content in English, I could talk more, but that's not really it. So yeah, appreciate it.
No, we appreciate you being here and always great takes. I understand you don't do a lot of content in English, but I honestly think whenever Aaron speaks, people should listen. Great content. Doesn't matter the language. Great content every time. Mr. Everborn Saga, sir, I think we've done it. We're here. Why don't you tell the people where they can keep up with your ongoings, as well as the Everborn Saga?
The answer to both of those questions is Everborn Saga, whether it is everbornsaga.com or don't look for me on X, because I'm only there like occasionally lurking. But I'm not really posting on X much these days. Unless, of course, PlayStation decides to port a game to Xbox, then I'll come there and be slanderous. But other than that, I'm not there. Discord is where you can find me. We are there maybe 5 to 7 days a week, and go to everbornsaga.com. But as I said, we've got a lot of merch on the everbornsaga.com website. But now we have a Gaming Circle podcast section where you can get your Gaming Circle podcast merch. And if you use code GCP at checkout, it is 15% off. Come to the Discord. We create memes, and then we create shirts and hats around them, like FAMAS, like CEG, like Charge Them More, the famous one. And all the meme shirts are done by Champion. The GCP shirts are done by Adidas. And we've got some very cool hats, and we've got some more things coming. So go to everbornsaga.com, maybe pick up some comics while you're there, but also go to the Gaming Circle podcast section and start taking a look at some of this merch.
Absolutely. And let's not slander the comics. Great comics. Absolutely great comics that more people should be reading.
Fantastic comics, if I do say so myself. And we got more on the way. Also, by the way, we just got back from Florida SuperCon in Miami. This August, if you're in the tri-state area, the Everborn Saga will be at Anime NYC, and in October we will be at New York Comic Con. So both of those are in the Jacob Javits Center in Manhattan, if you know where that is. So come check us out. We're gonna have a lot of stuff there.
Excellent.
And look at that. We got some testimonials in the chat. A. Rodimus says they're great comics and his kids love them. They're written for kids. Right. They're not. Don't worry. They're mostly age appropriate.
As do mine as well. My kids read them as well. So yes, come check it out. Go check out the Everborn Saga. Help a community member realize their dream, and you're also getting great content as well.
By the way, this is one of the shirts that we have.
Oh yes.
Saga, right. This is an Adidas shirt. If I can show you somewhere, right?
There you go.
Very high quality stuff.
And hopefully he will have XXL or XL soon. That's some slander.
Blame
Don't worry about
for
it.
that. Don't blame me. We only display the sizes that they offer.
Big Mad Mo with the final super chat of the day. He's been a member for 18 months. We appreciate you, sir. He says, great show, y'all. Debate was fun. Everborn, how is the Remnant coming? Coming along? And how was the con? Hashtag Xbox invades enemy territory. Hashtag Xbox better. Hashtag Chief needs to retire. No, fam.
Watch
that
your
last
mouth
part was
about
bad.
Chief. We're not gonna do this whole Chief debate. That'll be. You know what? Maybe that's our
It's an
next
18-hour
debate.
podcast.
Maybe that is our next official debate. Should Chief
Bring
be
BV in the
killed
spot.
or
Bring
retired?
BV in here. Let's go.
I will partake in that one, but I might want to
Yes,
give
sir.
it to Pixel because he's the Lord Master. But regarding the Remnant, that book is going to be very, very special because, as you may know if you've been following along, that is a new series in the Everborn saga, and it has been done for a long time, but we didn't just want to release it with one chapter because it's a little bit of a slow burn. So we're releasing that as an anthology book with the first 3 chapters in one book, over 180 pages. It will be a hardcover book, full color, and we will be adapting the first 3 chapters of that novel. And we are done with chapters 1 and 2. We are working on chapter 3 right now, which will be done this year if all goes according to plan. So 3 chapters in one. Each chapter is drawn by a different artist, and it will be an anthology for that adaptation. 180 pages.
So,
hardcover,
Everborn,
full.
unfortunately,
we're doing.
I must go because there's literally somebody ringing my doorbell because I told them I'd be done by 2:00. So
I got the same thing coming. I got a contractor coming at 2, so
Indeed,
we got to get out of here. But look
You
out
want
for
from
the
your
Remnant
Logic to
hardcover.
take it from here?
later this
Is
year.
that it? Oh.
Yeah. You and Logic take it from me. All right. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, it has been great. Like, of course, we hadn't been doing this podcast for 2 weeks, so we came back. We had to hit you with a 4-hour epic. It is what it is. Join the Discord. Hopefully our likes get up to 100, because if they're not, that's a little slanderous. Come on, gentlemen.
And hopefully we get to those 3,000 subs. Come on. People.
Absolutely. Please help us out. I will be at Gamescom with Aaron. Myself and Aaron will be at Gamescom. We're moving and shaking and working the schedules and whatnot. So check out. You'll expect more content from us there. Hopefully we'll get you on GCP after. We'll talk about all the stuff that happened. But yeah, that's it from us. I think that's it. Right? I think we're good. Till next week. Peace.
Thanks for being on it.